Good morning, everybody. The time is 10:02, and I call December 17, 2023 Planning Board meeting to order. We are joined by the following commissioners. We have Commissioner Giraldo.
Good morning.
We have Vice Chair Bailey.
Good morning.
Commissioner Washington.
Morning.
We do not have Commissioner Dorner with us. He may join us later at some point, and I'm Chair Shapiro. Please note on some logistic issues, folks, please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration and for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. Registered speakers may join the meeting with a link provided in the email provided by the planning board office, or listen by phone by utilizing the call-in number, which you will see referenced on the screen before you. If you wish to speak or become a person of record, you may use our online web form, you can see on the screen. In addition to the commissioners, we are joined by our principal counsel, David Warner. We have Jessica Jones, our planning board administrator, Rhonda Ford, our technical hearing writer, James Hunt, the division chief for the Development Review Division, and we have staff members Kenneth Flanagan and Ryan Crowder helping us with technology behind the scenes quite ably as always. So let's move on with our agenda. Item one, I've got a few announcements. The first one is there is a resolution of appreciation for the retirement of Chidi Umezulu. Chidi has, she's been around a long time. I remember Chidi from my days as a council member, and he will be well missed. He's at Planner 3 with the Prince George's County Planning Department, retired from the commission, will retire from the commission January 1st after 34 years of service. He has served us in all sorts of ways as Sustainable Communities Project Manager. He was often coordinating with us on our behalf with the state on issues pertaining to sustainable communities. He was responsible for the planning areas 75A and 75B. And as a testament to his expertise and his skills, he led the efforts on the recently completed county retail revitalization guide, which if you all have not looked at that, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at it. It's a wonderful, wonderful document that's going to help the county grow in all the ways that we want it to grow. So Chidi, that's a really, really good work on that. So I want to thank you for all, on behalf of the planning board, for all of your years of service and dedication to the commission, and we wish you a very happy retirement. So commissioners, you may have some other things to add, and I would look for a motion for the resolution of appreciation.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, Chidi, on your many years of service.
Second, and I would also associate myself with the comments made by the chair and Ms. Washington. So you certainly will be missed, and congratulations.
Well said. We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion? No discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo. You're on mute, Manny.
I vote aye, and I share in everyone else's comments and appreciate the years of service and the contributions to the county.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. Thanks, everybody. Next item, I have a very, very exciting announcement to be made. We just sent out an internal memo to this effect, but I want to announce it here on camera as well. We have a new planning director for the planning department. We are happy to share this exciting news. After a 6-month-long nationwide search, we are pleased to announce that the Prince George's County Planning Board has selected Lakeisha Hull as the new planning director of the Prince George's County Planning Department. This will be effective January 8th, 2024. I want to briefly read a little bit about her, just for the record. She has an extensive background in community planning and land development and permitting and policy regulation, transportation planning, all the things we're looking for and a planning director. She served for the cities of Charlotte, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Los Angeles, California, and most recently as the planning director of the city of Miami, Florida, where she led a fairly large department. Throughout her career, she has led successful budget development, implementation processes, strategic planning, reorganizations, permitting process efficiencies, all sorts of wonderful experiences she brings to bear. She also holds a dual master's degree in architecture and city and regional planning from the University of Pennsylvania. So she got used to the cold, so it's not just Miami. So this won't be a shock to her, I believe. She also has a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Michigan, the Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning. Multiple professional certifications, member of ULI, Urban Land Institute, American Planning Association, U.S. Green Building Council. Lakeisha's leadership will be beneficial as we collectively work to realize the goals outlined in Plan Prince George's 2035. There's still a lot of more work to do, and I'm really looking forward to welcoming her to the team in January. This is just a huge opportunity for us. I also want to extend a huge thanks to Suzanne King for serving as the acting planning director since March of 2023. Suzanne has a habit of taking on more than one role at once, and this was a big one, and she did it ably. And in addition to guiding the department with all the planning initiatives and new programs, at the same time, Suzanne led the effort for our relocation effort. So she was essentially our in-house project manager for our move to our new headquarters building in Largo. So what Suzanne, I cannot say enough about the tremendous asset you are to our team, and effective mid-January, she'll resume her position as the Deputy Planning Director of Administration, and I want to thank you for all that you have done. Also, would be remiss if I didn't thank Derek Erlage as well, the Acting Deputy Planning Director. Through all these transitions, Derek, your steady leadership, your expertise, your commitment to the planning department of the agency has been evident. And so we have a super strong leadership team, and we're about to be joined by a new planning director to take us to even greater heights. So with that, I just want to make it clear that we have all sorts of exciting new opportunities ahead of us. I want to thank the team that went through the process of helping identify, select, interview candidates, which is always a lot of work. And Commissioner Washington, you were instrumental in this, along with our General Counsel Deborah Borden. I want to thank both of you. And I want to thank Jessica, our Planning Board Administrator, for all of her capacity for managing the complexity of going through a process like this. So that's it. Thanks to everybody. And you all can be looking forward to meeting her a little bit in December and then officially in January. So no action item, just an announcement. So next, I would look for a motion. This is item 2 on our agenda. I'd look for a motion to approve the draft minutes of November 30th, 2023.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion. Call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. And there's Suzanne King. We were just singing your praises. Next, we have item 3A on our agenda. These are our legislative updates and approvals. We'll turn to Ms. Borden and other members of her team. We have a number of items. A few of these, let's be clear, are we taking action on every one of these? Is that the plan, Jordan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Deborah Borden General Counsel, sorry. Yes, so we are asking to take action on all of these so that when we say that we have taken a position as a commission, it's inclusive of both sides, even though the bulk of these only apply in Montgomery County. The only two that apply in Prince George's County are I believe, listed first for you. And those are the two bills that are, let's see, they are PGMC 105 and PGMC 106. Those are the only two that actually apply in Prince George's County. But we wanted to make sure that you got a chance to look at what's going on in Montgomery and take a look at the positions that we're taking. And if you have any questions or heartburn, you know, we wanted to make sure that we give you the opportunity to share that, and we can make whatever adjustments are necessary to get both boards on the same page.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can take all these up as one vote at the end?
We can, unless there is a problem or a change or a revision that someone wants to make to one of the bills or one of the position statements, and then I would suggest pulling that out and voting on the rest, and then we can take up whatever revisions we want to discuss on, whatever, bill is giving any person some pause. And I will say we had so many bills on the Montgomery County side because the Montgomery County folks did a workshop or a work group over the summer led by Delegate Lopez, who is on the Montgomery delegation. And they came up with 22 recommendations to try to streamline the development review process in Montgomery County. So a number of those bills are the result of that work over the summer. So that's why we have so many on that side.
Okay. So from a process perspective, commissioners, let's treat this informally like a consent agenda. So as we go through them, if you want to pull anything out, we'll make a note of it. But otherwise, we'll take it all up as one vote.
Okay. And I can just say that we did speak to you about PG 105 and 106. These are the same bills. We talked to you, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So these are the opposition that you had directed us to prepare, but I wanted to make sure that you got a chance to take a look at what we actually said in the opposition so that, if you have additional direction for us, or if you have a question about something that we did say, that you had the chance to tell us.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, process clarification. If we're going to take, because I know that the two Prince George's County bills are, as General Counsel just said, opposition, and the others are support and support with amendments. So the motion will be just to accept or adopt the recommendation of staff. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
So I guess I will ask, are there any questions? Is there a particular bill that anyone wants me to address? If not, I will stand on the presentation that I've made, and I don't have anything further.
So specifically on 105-24 and 106-24, is there more discussion that we want to have on these? Because these really do affect us quite directly.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question. No, I support our council's position on the bills, but I do have a question whether or not any of the bills that pertain solely to Montgomery County in terms of streamlining development review, are there any items in those bills that our county, Prince George's County, may want to look at in terms of streamlining development review?
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
well, that's
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
that
ahead.
is a great question. We did send these bills to the staff at the planning department. I don't know if there was a meeting to actually hash through these. We did think that there was some ability for us to try to do this on the Prince George's side as well. They focused a lot on the plat process. So the process of approving plats and the whole getting the signatures on the Mylars, because we're still doing that. And it seems like a very antiquated way to do things in the digital age. So we can talk about, we can see if the sponsor can entertain some friendly amendments to include Prince George's on the bills. We think it would be a good thing to not just apply to Montgomery. And frankly, I'm not sure that, because this is the state archives who actually ultimately gets these Mylars. I'm not sure that they would want to just do it for one county. I think they would, if they're going to change their process to include digital signatures and digital Mylars, that they would probably want to just do this wholesale. So we can explore that.
Okay.
And we'll get back to you and let you know, what they say.
Thank you very much.
Good. Excellent question.
Deborah, I did want to make one clarification. I think I heard one of the commissioners saying the other two bills, although they're related to Montgomery County, there are two opposition bills towards the end of that list for Montgomery County. They're not all just support with amendments.
Right.
So just flagging that.
And I think to Commissioner Washington's point, then what we really are doing is adopting staff's recommendation on each of them.
Right.
Okay, so commissioners, any questions on any of these? Any you want to pull out? If not, I would look for a motion to approve staff's recommendations on each of these bills.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the analysis and staff's recommendation on the 10 pieces of legislative proposals that have been presented.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. Discussion? No discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 4-0. And thank you, Jordan Deborah, for all of your work on this. Ably presented and done. There's all sorts of work that goes on behind the scenes with these. And so thank you for all the effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, on to item 3C. And I neglected to say, commissioners, we're just going to follow the order of items on the agenda. There are no changes for this. So we are on to item 3C for our agenda. And this is the FY25 proposed budget for Parks and Rec for their operating and for their CIP, as well as we're going to be taking up the Internal Services Fund, the Largo ISF. And I'm not sure which order we're doing that, but I will turn to Director Tyler, who will kick us off.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Bill Tyler, Director, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Department of Parks and Recreation. Happy holidays to you all. Thank you for the opportunity to present our FY25 operating budget and FY25 through 30 capital improvement program budget today. In the interest of time, I have a few opening comments that will address the operating and CIP budgets. And at the conclusion of my comments, I will turn the presentation over to our still very new operating budget manager, Ms. Donna Herring, and Ms. Claire Worstel, our fairly new CIP budget manager, when you're ready to hear the CIP presentation. So as I understand it, we'll be doing the operating budget first and the ISF and then CIP. The FY25
Pardon me for, I just want to, Mr. Warner, I just want to make sure I'm following the right order here, because I think I jumped over item 3C because we're actually on item 3D.
I thought you were on 3C.
Does it play out the same way? Oh, I see, because 3C is actually going to be the operating, and then the, okay. Director Tyler.
May I proceed now?
Yep, ignore me and keep going.
All right. The FY25 proposed operating budget and the FY25 through 30 capital improvement program budget was developed with the following considerations in mind. It is within the spending affordability guidelines. It is consistent with the internal assessments by our parks and recreation professionals. It is responsive to requests made during the public forums. It is in alignment with our 2040 and LPPRP plans. And last but certainly not least, it represents insights, desires, and guidance of this phenomenal and very supportive planning board. You will see quite a bit of alignment between the operations and CIP budgets today. And as you know, we're very proud of being a 6 gold medal winning agency and our impressive adjustments during COVID. The continuity of services, focus on equity and stewardship, and the progress made to date to bring these vital programs and services to the very deserving residents of Prince George's County. However, we are still slightly behind the curve in needed resources because of the impact of the pandemic. Seems like a long time ago, but the effects are still being felt. Over the past 3 fiscal years, the department proposed either no increase or conservative increases in staffing and budget, while at the same time, new and innovative programs were needed. Trails, athletic fields, and playgrounds saw unprecedented use. Construction projects and land acquisition and other services continued to accelerate. To meet the continuous demand, the budgets we will present to you today will be critical to continuing that progress. I thank you very much for the opportunity and will now turn the presentation over to Ms. Donna Herring.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Planning Board members. My name is Donna Herring, and I am the Operating Budget Manager for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Thank you for the opportunity to present the FY25 proposed operating budget to the Planning Board today. Next slide. As we envision our future and begin planning the fiscal year 2025 activities, our goal continues to be based on our ongoing strategic pillars, which are designed to positively contribute to the communities, spaces, and people that we serve. Next slide. This slide is a summary of the department's park and recreation funds. You will note that there is a 15.8% increase in the overall operations. There is also a 47.3% decrease in project charges and a modest decrease in the transfer to the enterprise fund. The transfer to the CIP is proposed to decrease by 11.4%, while debt service will increase by 18.6%. The increase in operations is due largely to our focus areas, which are Largo headquarters, natural and paved surfaces, our partnership with Prince George's County Public Schools, inclusion services through our therapeutic recreation programs, culture and arts, environmental stewardship, meeting ADA standards, and overall compliance. The 15.8% increase reflects a one-time budget expenditure of $6.1 million. These items, which are critical needs, include upgrades in firearms, communication equipment for our park police, EV charging stations and facility renovations, as well as a significant vehicle repairs and replacement plan. Currently, of our 83 vehicles that need to be either replaced or receive a major repair, we can only address 7 to 8 with our current budget. This does not include those vehicles well past their useful life due to day-to-day wear and tear. Next slide. This slide provides an overview of the proposed budgets for the enterprise and special revenue funds. Our ongoing goal for the enterprise fund is to gradually reduce the need to subsidize this fund. In this year's proposed budget, we have been able to decrease the subsidy from the recreation fund to the enterprise fund by 4.5%. We were able to do this in part by increasing revenue goals to pre-COVID levels and providing increased offerings. One area that continues to be popular is golf, and our expectation is that these operations will continue to strive. Given this, we have projected a modest increase in the overall revenue goals based on increased offerings, a new golf course, and additional staff. As with the enterprise fund, the revenue goals for the special revenue fund were also increased to pre-COVID levels, and expenditures increased proportionately to accommodate the increased programming. Please note an overall adjustment was included in all funds containing seasonal workers to reflect the appropriate minimum wage increase per the state of Maryland in January 2022. This will assist in providing the correct amount of funding for seasonal staffing needs. The adjustment is more prominent in the Special Revenue Fund because the programming related to this fund is primarily staffed by our seasonal workers. Next slide. As the department always strives to provide the highest level of service and the most safe and enjoyable experiences for our residents and visitors, we evaluated current and future staffing needs and found that additional staff is necessary to continue to achieve this level of service. We've listened to the requests from the public and delivered, and are still delivering on our commitment. To address these needs, we are requesting new full-time and part-time positions. All the position requests are directly related to our fiscal year 2025 focus areas, which are trails, the new Largo headquarters, athletic field management and programming, culture and arts, environmental stewardship, and ADA compliance and administration. You can find additional information relating to the position requests in today's memo. Next slide. In an effort to continue on our road to greatness, to refresh, reinvent, and reimagine, the department is proposing positions to support our fiscal year 2025 focus areas. As you may know, according to a National Geographic article, we are currently in the best time in the history of dinosaur research. Paleontologists are discovering approximately 50 new dinosaur species every year, which is an incredible feat. And we are excited to know that our very own dinosaur park has been and will continue to be in the forefront of these discoveries through support of the fiscal year 2025 funding proposal. An example of how our proposed budget will serve the residents of Prince George's County is by assisting us in meeting the expectations set in Formula 2040. This functional master plan creates 400 miles of trails that will connect places of recreation, work, school, and shopping. We can continue supporting this effort in FY25 by providing funding to complete the necessary trail inspections, which would include various bridges, maintenance, mowing, signage, asphalt, and Steam Valley repairs. Our plan is to continue to identify and potentially connect several miles of trails each year. In addition, to enhance our athletic field management and programming focus area, we will continue to nurture our partnership with Prince George's County Public Schools. We have included funding to further develop countywide programs and events by taking on the care, coordination, and maintenance of approximately 209 athletic fields, as well as the related coordination of scheduling and permitting. This will be in addition to the 308 athletic fields that we currently maintain. In summary, the proposed funding will go a long way in improving new and existing athletic fields with new turf, lighting, and fencing, enhancing our paved and natural surface trails, ensuring that all our playgrounds are well maintained and safe, increasing the selection of arts and cultural programming, complying with the requirements of the American Disabilities Act, continuing to be environmentally responsible throughout the county, and offering interactive and educational experiences at our museums and historical sites similar to Sankofa. Next slide. Our highlights are too numerous to share today, but we would love to send you some highlights of each of the areas listed if you are interested. Next slide. The staff recommends approval of the fiscal year 2025 proposed Department of Parks and Recreation operating budget for submittal to the County Council and County Executive. This concludes our presentation, and we're prepared to answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herring. Thank you, Director Tyler. Just a brief, as we open up for questions, I just want to say how pleased I am that this is both relatively fiscally conservative, but really a transformational budget. That you've heard loud and clear what, at least from my perspective, the things that the commissioners, the planning board has said, other stakeholders, the partnership with the school system, talk about a transformative initiative, and the emphasis on the trails. We hear that every day from folks in the community and at our budget forums, and I appreciate the commitment and investment in that. And, you know, obviously all of this is aligned with your own planning initiatives, and I think this forward in a pretty impressive way. So commissioners, thoughts, reactions, questions, comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me begin by associating myself with your comments. I completely agree. And I also wanted to take this opportunity, Director Tyler, to share similar comments that I shared with Director Chang Smith on last week, and just applaud and compliment you and your team and everyone that has been involved in kind of this new budget presentation format, focusing on the high, low, I think appropriately high and critical areas of focus. It's just job well done, just job well done. And I thank you. And Ms. Herring, you're officially a pro now. You were referenced as a newbie, but consider yourself full on board pro. And then one curiosity question is, you mentioned upgrading of firearms for our park police. What do we do with the firearms that you know, once they're upgraded? I assume something happens with the older ones. What I'm just curious.
Yes, Commissioner Washington, first, thank you for your comments, and as always, thank you for your support. It's interesting you say that, because I was down at our firearms facility about 2 weeks ago, and I asked the same question. So most of them get destroyed, melted down, and there are others that could be sold if they're in the condition to be sold. So it's a win-win. We get to make a little money, and those that are not in operating condition get melted down.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, thank you and the entire team.
Thank you. It is a team effort for sure. And I want to make sure to say that those that are not on camera today that are at this presentation have done a tremendous amount of work to get us to where we are and to continue to seek the 7th gold medal, by the way. So just want to say thank you, but also thank you to this tremendous team and this department.
Great. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions, comments, reactions, thoughts?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Tyler, Ms. Herring on this presentation. I'm particularly happy. It seems like we're focusing in on some of the trails, which we've seen from our budget hearings that the public is always asking for more. So we appreciate that. We're following the wishes of our residents. So thank you, Mr. Tyler. And yes, Ms. Herring, you are a pro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Giraldo. And although it wasn't mentioned, we are making also great strides in dog parks as well, sir.
Yep. I know, I've listened. The dog parks are beautiful.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to associate myself with the comments made by my colleagues. And why did you have to mention those dog parks? We hear that often enough. But thank you so much for your presentation. Ms. Herring, you did an outstanding job today, and we're so delighted to see you. And thank you, Mr. Tyler, for all that you do to make Prince George's even better and better and better. The park near my community at one time was nothing but a dump, but over the last year since you've been there, Mr. Tyler, I'm sure you made sure that it was always in perfect condition when I passed it. So I thank you so very much for that.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Madam Vice Chair, because I do want to congratulate the staff, your office on the Tatarian North Park, that they expanded the walkway from what was probably 3 feet, maybe 3.5, to 6 foot wide. And makes it much easier for when people to use it. You know, they don't have to keep moving over into the grass and everything. So I think that was a great move.
Thank you, sir. And Madam Vice Chair, thank you for your comment. And we are really striving to make sure that every park looks the way the one looks next to your house, but be clear, the one next to your house is going to be top notch. So we'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you.
And we are joined by our fifth commissioner, Commissioner Dorner. I know you have lots of strong feelings about these, so I'm glad you're able to join us. And if you have any thoughts, reactions, questions, comments, now is the time.
Yeah, so I'll say thank you for doing the slides, Mr. Tyler. Obviously, I missed most of the presentation, but I looked at them a couple of days ago, and I've been paying close attention to the budget because, like Commissioner Geraldo, I was very happy to see more in there for the trails. I hope that we end up getting a more kind of purposeful trails program kind of underway. I think it was one of the comments that you guys got in the backup material from external parties about having a more formal kind of effort to do not just paved, but unpaved natural surface trails as well throughout the county, because there's a lot of opportunities to expand that, and that connects people. Sheriff Shapiro was talking at the Trolley Trail extension earlier this week, and one of the things he highlighted was exactly what I had just been talking about with the Hyattsville CDC, that trails aren't just an exercise routine or a place where you can go and walk or bike or kind of take a stroll around, but they're also a place that connects communities and for economic development. We should see these as kind of all around ways of giving people a form to get from one place to another, because there's folks that don't have cars, and when we prioritize only vehicular traffic, we lose connecting with some of our other citizens around this county. And we lose out on business opportunities to support local businesses and other people who have chosen to take up in Prince George's County. So I view the trails as much more than just us getting on our bikes or walking around or running or just taking an opportunity to enjoy the pleasant outside that we have around here and the splendid green, natural kind of areas that we've got, but also as a place to get from one place to another. I use them to take my kids to different parks, to go to those new Kaboom playgrounds that you guys have been putting up that are amazing. I also use them to go shopping. I use them to take my son to summer camps throughout the county at different places. And along the way, I will pester some of your employees about going out and cutting back trees and doing different things, and they're fantastic. They do that, they make it feasible to use these networks, and I'm very happy to have just a tremendous network of trails, at least in my area of the county. I look forward to hopefully seeing more of that at other places around the county as we work on other connector routes, and we try and figure out what are the low-hanging fruits to connect our parks to different places, or to get trail extensions to connect different kinds of throughways or kinds of paths that we have, because I think that's going to really activate our own citizens to get outside, have a healthy life and everything. Because if you don't have connections or a reason to use these trails, people just aren't going to use them. Like, we can build trails everywhere, but if they don't actually take people to where they want to go to and from, it's going to be kind of pointless. So if we have sort of like deliberate ways of figuring out how to offer people healthy choices and ways of getting to the metro or places they would want to go, it's going to make the world of a difference. Because I'm fortunate now, I can go on trail all the way to one metro, almost on trail. I have to use some sidewalks to another metro, and then on some sharrows and other stuff to a third metro around me. So I feel being very fortunate to have that, and I look forward to hopefully knowing and hearing from other citizens who have the same opportunities like that. So to me, it's a really important thing that as we go to those gold medals, this can kind of help us stand out. We have wayfinding underway. We have ways of extending other trails, and we've sort of found other places that would be high priority. If we put more efforts into that, I think that's going to help distinguish us from other places. If you go across the diamond of DC into Virginia, then you'll see really good networks in Virginia that they've got as well. They have water stations and all sorts of other amenities on their trails to encourage people to use them. And I I would be pleasantly surprised if we had tons of people using these trails 10 years from now, because it's just the way to do things, and people don't have to get in their cars and drive around. That they can get into the communities which have everything they need, and they don't need to necessarily go around in a car. So that's sort of my pet peeve right now, is just trying to jab elbows as much as I can to get more trails set up and everything. And it's been kind of a focus that I'm placing on a lot of the development cases that we come forward. So you'll be hearing from the park, or from your parks folks who are probably trying to get more resources from this, but then also planning staff who are probably going to be coming to your park staff, since we have the amazing opportunity to have the joint departments, to ask about how we get these things done and how do we work together. I mentioned this to Sean actually at the event on earlier this week, about how we want to take the Port Towns SMA and plan there, and figure out how do we incorporate a lot more of the parks into the planning aspects of that. And as a reward, he gave me a really cool bike hat that was awesome, that I wore on the trail later on. So I look forward to seeing a lot more of that development, because it really, everything's intertwined in this county, and we're just in this incredible opportunity to really push that forward. And I look forward to seeing your department do that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dorner, I'm sorry.
No, you're on.
All right. Commissioner Dorner, thank you for those comments. And of course, you're speaking our language. And our next frontier is exactly that, is to really connect all the communities to our trails. Over the pandemic, the time of the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, we had an unprecedented use, as you know, of our trails. But I really do want to say, take just a second to say that we have a tremendous collaboration going on behind the scenes to do exactly what you're asking us to do. We've developed a team amongst our natural historic division, our facility services division, environmental stewardship division, our north and southern parks, our rangers, and we also have a bike team that's out riding the trails, natural surface and hard surface trails, to actually experience what's happening with our residents and those that come and ride our trails and walk our trails, so that we understand the experience they're having and we can make that experience the best that it can be. So we are working behind the scenes. We have staff that are being hired right now to focus solely on our natural surface trails and hard surface trails, and we'll continue to do that. And we do have some material we can send you regarding what's happening with our trails, so that you can be well versed on that. So I don't want to take much more time. I know we have a lot to do today, but really excited about the opportunities ahead of us. And again, I can't thank you all enough for your support and guidance as we move forward to our 7th goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tyler. Thank you, Commissioner Dorner. Commissioners, we actually have somebody from the public who's asked to speak on this item. Melissa Wisegood, are you on the line?
Yes.
So are you looking to speak on the capital budget as well as the operating budget, or just the operating budget that you've just heard described?
You know, I have the same comment that relates to both, so I can just have one comment now and then not go later. Because I didn't actually I didn't sign up for 3D anyway.
Okay, well, let's turn to you, and we're happy to give you the opportunity to say a few words. If you could introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Sure. So thank you very much for the opportunity to provide feedback. My name is Melissa Wisegood. I live in Hyattsville. I'm in County District 2. I have adopted a segment of the Northwest Branch and clean up that trail. I biked, thousands of miles on and run thousands of miles on the trails. I really appreciate the commissioner with Mr. Dorner, who talked about trails as being transportation, and I use them a lot for transportation. I commute to work, I go to the store on the trail. So for me, it's having a safe transportation route. And so I specifically wanted to speak about the funding for the trails development and trail maintenance. It's hard to tell from the budget whether on the, there's a page that lists the park fund work year changes, and I see there are staff under trails. Not clear to me if those are additional staff, but our trails program has historically been very underfunded. The staff do wonderful work, Bob Patton doing the development, and Tennille and Matt working on the maintenance and bridge repair, but they're just such a lean team the county has received a RAISE grant. A lot of that is for parks, and we will need professional designers. We will need additional staff to be able to maintain those trails, you know, instead of constantly using consultants or having to kick things down the curb. So do want to make sure our trails program is appropriately staffed so that we can develop and maintain more expediently a high quality trail network that provides for transportation as well as recreation. And at the same time, ensuring sufficient park policing that those trails are safe. I have noted quite a bit of gang graffiti, particularly around the Green Meadows area, and have reported that, but you know, it's a concern that it keeps popping up. But yeah, just additional funding. And when I look at the SIP, you know, that 1 million for next year is not a lot. And I see that in the SIP for the next 5 years, there's only one specific project at Bladensburg, and then there's a few million for unspecified. I don't see the Central Avenue connector, which will be a key part of the Blue Line development, and that has been asked for years. So those, you know, looking at some of those other trails and prioritizing those specifically in the SIP for forward years would be very important, and particularly that Central Avenue connector, because that has been a priority for so many years and is supposed to be coming in along with the Blue Line development. So thank you very much for the opportunity to comment and for all the great work. I really appreciate all that Parks is doing, and the you know, our trails are amazing. That's why I moved here from Montgomery. It's such a great network. And while I will continue to give back and support our trails. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And let me provide just a moment for Director Tyler, since we have you here, or any member of your team, if you want to respond or join any of the comments that you've heard from the resident.
Well, actually, I want to say thank you for those comments and the support. And again, you are absolutely correct in the need to have more resources on our trails, and we continue to add each year so that we continue to grow and have an opportunity to make our trails a first-class trail system in the country. And we are working toward that. I appreciate the support to have more talent and more staff and managers to manage these projects and to get them off the ground. We've been conservative this year. Because we know that, you know, they're challenging times, but we want to make sure we continue to grow in our efforts to bring the trail system to the level that the residents deserve, need, and want, and the level that we want, which is a first-class system. And we can talk offline. I'd love to be able to talk to you a little bit more about some of the improvements that we're making, but I also know that you will hear some of the synergies between our CIP program and the operational budget when Ms. Wolfstow comes up to make her presentation. And we have certainly made an effort to continue to build on our trails program, both in asphalt and hard surface.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. Appreciate that. Commissioners, these are separate resolutions for these. So let's stick with item 3C. See if there's any more questions or comments about this. And if there are none, then I would look for a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion to second. This is for the operating budget. The discussion on the motion. Let me just say again under discussion how appreciative I am of all the work that has gone into this budget. This really feels to me like it's going to move us. It is a transformational budget. It's going to move us in the direction that we all want to go. I think we're going to see great things from this. So thank you all very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. And I don't remember who made the motion. Commissioner Washington, did you make the motion?
I did, and I vote aye.
Okay. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Who's next? Director Tyler? Ms. Herring?
I believe the ISF presentation is up next, sir.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that means I'm up. So for the record, I'm Suzanne King, and as I always say, I'm the very proud acting planning director for the planning department. I always say that you have to love technology. I went to turn my camera on earlier in the meeting and it completely froze my system. And I had to reboot it and missed the chairman's earlier comments. But I'll just say that I'll make sure I review the recording and see what I missed since he said he was singing my praises. I just wanted to take a moment to say that I appreciated the opportunity to serve as the acting planning director, and just want to give a special thank you to the chairman and my colleague, Deputy Director Berlage, for all of their support in that endeavor. I always say around here, everything is a team effort, and I'm thankful for the various teams that I have. I also want to congratulate the planning board, excuse me, on the selection of a new planning director. I look forward to supporting and working with Ms. Hull in her new role, as well as returning to just having one position as the very proud Deputy Director of Administration. And I also feel confident in saying that I'm sure that Deputy Director Berlage and the senior management team also look forward to supporting and working with Ms. Hull in her new role. With that said, just have a couple of quick remarks about the Largo Building ISF, and then I will turn it over to our budget manager. Just wanted to thank Deputy Director Tyler, his staff, as well as the staff in the Corporate Budget Director's Office for their support in working on not only the Largo headquarters building project, but also the development of the proposal for the ISF. We look forward to our continued collaboration as the planning board, planning department, and eventually the Department of Parks and Recreation. We all become neighbors in the same headquarters. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Coleman Williams, our budget manager, to present our collective proposal for the FY 2025 Largo ISF. Ms. Coleman Williams.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning board. For the record, my name is Lorraine Coleman Williams, budget manager for the Prince George's County.
The mic is a little bit weak.
Can't hear me? Oh, sorry.
We can hear you, but a little bit weak.
Can you hear me better now? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. The way to beef it up a little bit for our audience, it would be helpful.
And I'm sorry, while Ms. Coleman Williams is working on her microphone, if I could ask that we have the Largo ISF document displayed, that would be great. I think it's under the backup item under 3C.
Is that a
Thank
little
you.
better?
It is a little better, yes.
Okay. I think the arm was turned around.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning board. For the record, my name is Lorraine Coleman Williams, budget manager for the Prince George's County Planning Department. It is my pleasure to present to you the FY 2025 budget proposal for the Prince George's County Largo Headquarters Building Internal Service Fund. As you may recall, last week's presentation, I mentioned that on November 10th, 2023, the Prince George's County Planning Board and Planning Department moved into the Largo headquarters located at 1616 McCormick Drive. We are currently occupying the 3rd floor and a portion of the 1st floor, and soon we'll be sharing the building with the Department of Parks and Recreation. Next page, please. Now I would like to summarize the FY 2025 proposed budget. The Internal Service Fund will serve two purposes. First, it will support all operating and maintenance expenditures for the headquarters. And second, it will support the additional repairs and renovations. This proposal includes $5,886,332 in operating and maintenance expenditures. The budget contributions include $183,208 from the Planning Board, $1,950,000 from the Planning Department, and the anticipated $1,876,562 from the Park and Recreation funds, respectively. As previously mentioned, the second purpose of the fund will support repairs and renovations. The proposed FY 2025 budget includes $40,931,846. Given the projected deficits in the Park and Recreation funds, $40 million will be transferred in from the administrative fund, and the remaining $931,846 will be transferred in from the Capital Equipment Internal Service Fund. This request will require an adjustment for that fund. The funding will be used to address a multitude of repairs and maintenance at 1616 McCormick Drive. The resources will provide, but are not limited to, the provision of a new roof, outfitting the auditorium, switchgear, security, exterior curtain wall replacement, addressing the ADA upgrades, and it will support EV stations for fleet vehicles and hopefully provide a food hall style use of the building's commercial kitchen. Additionally, the funds will be used to provide, but is not limited to, roofing, security, plan and design spaces for the Department of Parks and Recreation at 1601 and 1660 McCormick Drive to prepare the spaces for occupancy and to move into the buildings. Advance to the next page, please. The proposed budget just discussed is reflected in this chart. I would like to extend my apology as I bring to your attention to the operating revenue section of the chart. If you look at the PGC Park and Recreation Park Fund line item in the column where it says FY 2025 proposed budget, this figure is transposed. It should read $1,876,562. This will make it consistent with what I just presented to you in the operating revenues to be $5,886,332. You will receive via email an updated copy of the Largo Headquarters Internal Service Fund memo. This concludes my presentation for the Largo Headquarters Building Internal Service Fund. We are happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coleman-Williams. Commissioners, let me just say that there's some big numbers here, but you have to put it in perspective. These are much smaller numbers than we had originally anticipated for all of this. So I appreciate, and none of this is unexpected. This is just sort of the second tranche of funding to get Parks and Rec in and to deal with some of the base building improvements, et cetera, et cetera. So short of it is we're right on track with where we were expecting to be. But let me open it up for questions for staff or reactions, thoughts. Good, pretty straightforward. Okay, thank you. So this is an action item, so we do need to take action on the ISF. So, and keep in mind that this includes the technical corrections that Ms. Coleman-Williams was noting in the budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget as proposed with the noted technical correction by Ms. Coleman-Williams.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo, and this is to approve the Largo Headquarters Building Internal Service Fund. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Coleman-Williams. And Ms. Kinney, thank you for the ongoing work associated with this and for all of your diligence related to this. And yeah, go listen to my comments because we were definitely singing your praise.
Will do. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, this is item 3D. This is the capital improvement program. And we have Ms. Worshel who's going to be giving the presentation. Unless Mr. Tyler, you have anything else to add, which I don't believe you do.
No, I just want to say Ms. Worstel, as I mentioned before, is also relatively new, and both Ms. Herring and Ms. Worstel are doing a bang-up job with their team, and she can take it from there.
Thank you, Director Tyler. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Claire Worstel, and I'm the Capital Budget Manager for the Department of Parks and Recreation in Prince George's County. I'm here today to present the proposed FY25 through FY30 capital improvement program for the department. Next slide, please. We strive to address the following 4 priorities in the FY25 CIP. be good stewards of our existing assets, fully fund the implementation of current projects, grow and change our inventory to meet the needs of current and future residents, and equitably distribute those resources and facilities. Our primary focus is on existing assets, specifically implementing a new asset management approach to guide the investment prioritization in these facilities. We are still feeling the effects of historic inflation. In order to complete many of our previously funded projects, we need to supplement funding to account for current material cost increases so we can finish these projects in a timely manner. Our proposed CIP is formulated by policies and recommendations in the adopted 2040 Functional Master Plan and the Land Preservation, Parks and Recreation Plan. These overarching planning documents have spurred master plans and feasibility studies that we then turn into capital projects. And finally, providing additional resources to the areas of the county most in need of high quality parks and recreation. Next slide, please. Formula 2040 was completed in 2012. At that time, the authors included population projections through 2040, which they based their recommendations and policies on, including the multi-generational center approach. As of 2020, we have surpassed their projections and are close to meeting the 2040 projection already. That means that the projects identified as necessary to meet the needs of the population by 2040 are needed today. We will strive as a department to meet this challenge. Next slide. The CIP has two components, capital budget and the capital plan. The capital budget refers to expenditures planned for the first year of the CIP and provides the appropriation authority to spend the funds. The capital plan is the proposed projects and related expenditures for the remaining 5 years. The actual funding for those projects will not be allocated until the budget year. For FY25, the department is proposing a budget of $131.2 million, and the 6-year plan total is $373.4 million. The proposed FY25 budget is likely to increase in the spring when we have more definitive figures for state grants and program open space funding. This budget includes funding for 35 projects and 11 recreation enhancement funds, which are accounts that fund multiple projects, such as the Playground Renovation Fund and Trail Development Fund. We will see how that breaks down in the next slide. Next slide, please. As was discussed in the CIP priority slide, we are investing roughly half of this year's budget in existing assets. We have a very large amount of aging infrastructure, and this investment is necessary for the safety and overall experience of our parks and recreation facility users. We are investing a large amount of funding in aquatics to get the pool at Sports and Learning Complex open for business again, and to upgrade our aging pools before they reach critical replacement need. We are also investing a lot of funding in new assets to meet the needs of our fast-growing population. This includes $15 million for an aquatic complex in the service area 7. As always, data can sometimes be misleading. For example, trails, fields, and stormwater projects are often components of larger projects and are not always apparent in these charts. For example, the trails at Sark and Canner Creek are wrapped into those project budgets. Additionally, the $11 million RAISE grant funding that was received by the department is technically FY24 funding, so it is also not showing up in this chart. You can see this information better in the chart on the left, which shows the remaining trail funding at $54 million. Next slide, please. We continue our commitment to focusing on playgrounds, fields, and trails. First and foremost, we are increasing the volume of work we're able to accomplish through multiple strategies, including working with outside project management firms. We are putting the plans and funding tools in place to expand our trail system in the central and southern areas of the county as requested by the community at the annual budget forums. We are following our playground replacement plan and replacing surfacing as needed with up to 15 playground replacements and 3 resurfacing projects planned for next year. And we have a comprehensive field strategy to maintain and upgrade fields throughout the county. Next slide. Last year, there was a lot of discussion surrounding equity in location of projects. While we do not have equality in projects by council district, we do have considerable equity of projects across the county. As part of the 2022 LPPRP, we worked with the state of Maryland to develop this park equity map. 26% of proposed CIP projects are in low equity areas, and 42% of projects are in medium to low equity areas. That's 68% of CIP projects. It should be noted that a considerable amount of the county is located in these equity areas if you look at the dark and light green colors on the map. But I think we're well on our way to doing a great job here. Next slide, please. Before we conclude, I would like to highlight some of the exciting projects that received funding this year. We continue to fund the delivery of multi-generational centers throughout the county, including Glen Ridge and Glendale. We have completed 3 regional park master plans and are working toward implementation of each through increased funding for various planned improvements. We will be delivering new first-class athletic facilities at Green Branch, Riverdale, Park Berkshire Park, and Fairland. We will be planning and designing a new aquatic facility in Service Area 7. We continue to restore the vast number of historic homes and buildings throughout the county with large capital investments for Public Playhouse, Oxon Hill Manor, and Mount Calvert, and much, much more. Next slide. In conclusion, staff recommends approval of the FY 25 through 30 proposed CIP for submittal to the county executive and the county council. This concludes the presentation, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Let me start by stealing Commissioner Washington's thunder and saying how really accessible and clear this presentation is. It's super helpful the way this is presented to us. It just makes it really easy to digest. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Washington, do you want to add on that?
I guess I'll just associate myself strongly with the chairman's comments. This is fantastic. I mean, I think that we've now got a solid blueprint for how we go forward. So great job. And Ms. Wurstel, you're now officially a pro too. So Director Tyler can no longer use the words new or barely new, almost new, or great job. Great job.
Commissioners, other questions from what you've heard for the CIP?
No question, but good to see you, Ms. Wurstel. But I was excited to see the historic facilities such as Public Playhouse and Oxon Hill Manor. Public Playhouse, I've been on that stage many, many times, and I've been in the audience many, many times. So I was excited to see it, and glad we'll be so happy when we can begin to congregate there again. Public Playhouse is a historical site in Prince George's County. And some of us who've been around for a while have been there so many, many times, and I miss it. And so glad to see that it's going to come back full force. Many, many wonderful shows there. We've seen outstanding national presenters there and local. So, this is exciting. I can barely talk about it. I'm so excited to see this. And maybe we'll get something done pretty soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question on the, this is like a super like in the weeds question, but on the Kaboom playgrounds that you guys are doing now, which are kind of, have we distanced ourselves from the imagination kind of playgrounds that we had? So we had like around 40 different playgrounds with that, and it looks like the Kaboom was sort of like maybe a public-private partnership to some extent, and it's kind of the way we're going forward. And I just want to know, is that true? Or are we still kind of like building out the other way? And then on the Kaboom playgrounds themselves, is there, I haven't seen, maybe I missed it, but is there a single website that would list out like a map that we would have with these? Because we have one for the other style of playgrounds. We have a booklet. So I would get the booklet and check them off. And last kind of Christmas holiday time, I took a week off and I took my son to one day, and it was supposed to be like Daddy Son Week or whatever, and we had themes. And he said, can we go to 2 playgrounds tomorrow? So we did 2 the next day, and then he said, can we do 3 the next day? So I was quickly having to figure out like where all these were, because I wanted to go around all these playgrounds as much as possible just to see them in different areas of the county. It was an opportunity for me to see different parts of the county that I otherwise wouldn't get to. And they'll bring him as well to these other places. And I would like to do the same with the Kaboom at some point when they start to kind of get up and going. So let me stop there and let you kind of jump in and provide more info maybe.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. I'm going to take it in parts. So first, Kaboom, we have 230 plus playgrounds in Prince George's County. About 90 of those have passed their useful life. That's a lot of playgrounds that are in need of replacement right now. And so working with Kaboom really enables us to move a lot faster, because instead of longer processes for design and constructing playgrounds, I mean, they're able to crank those out within a 3-month planning timeframe. So we started at 3 per year, and we are now at 5 per year with Kaboom. We're going to continue that next year with another 5 Kaboom playgrounds. We are not shied away from the imagination playgrounds. The imagination playgrounds, after COVID and in the face of inflation, have become very, very, very expensive to construct and also to replace pieces when they break because they are all custom. And so we're trying to make sure we only put imagination playgrounds in places that make the most sense. So community centers, regional parks, places where we have a lot of foot traffic and a lot of space to put them. We have 2 imagination playgrounds that will be coming next year. One is at Costco Regional Park, and the other is at College Park Community Center. That theme is going to be related to the Chinese immersion program that they have there, and is going to be an inclusive playground because the children at that school participate in a program for children with autism. So it's going to be an inclusive playground, imagination playground, and then we have many more playgrounds that we're delivering each year beyond our work with Kaboom. But the work with Kaboom is really great because it enables us really to work with the community, let the kids design the playgrounds, and have a hand in the design and construction. So it's an all-end, everything-end approach to the playgrounds. I love the idea of coming up with some way to advertise where they are. We have been talking about at Kinderfest this year, developing some materials that will show where all the Kaboom playgrounds we've done so far are and where the future ones will be. So we are going to be working toward that this coming year, so that when we go to Kinderfest, we can show all the kids and families all the new playgrounds that they should be exploring.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I look forward to hopefully seeing you there at Kinderfest and getting one of those brochures at some point, because I'll be going through and checking them off. Since you mentioned the inclusivity, I'll go into even more minute, super detail on 2 other suggestions I noticed recently. When I like to tour playgrounds when I go different places, because I have 2 constituents that are often with me who like to also partake in slides and other things. One thing that I noticed that I haven't seen on inclusivity playgrounds that we have around the county that I thought was really interesting was if you use assistive technology devices, which some kids they have apraxia, so they can't connect like the ideas in their brain to actually coming out correctly in their mouth in a timely fashion. So they'll have like devices that have like pictures that they can go through and they can touch to actually communicate that way. I know more about this because I'm having to do it with my daughter right now. I found a playground that actually had a bunch of these like a board, just exactly like you would get a sheet of paper. Because I'm now they're using technology devices like an iPad equivalent where you can kind of go through them. But then we've also worked with sheets, so she can touch different things and she can actually communicate that way with me faster than she could correctly do it on her own. But they had like a huge version of that at a playground, and I thought that was just fantastic that I saw. If we could think about something like that, because I've seen some signs that we have, but like not a really big board like that. And the other thing that I noticed that was, I thought, really clever, so we have a couple different kinds of swings that we've rotated in some of our playground settings. One is just sort of a traditional swing that you would sit on. Another one are the bucket seats for kids. And we also have the ADA kind of like swings that come over and kind of clamp in. There's a third or another additional one that I saw recently where a parent can sit on a flat bench and then the child can sit in front of you, and you can sort of experience it that way in sort of this bucket seat. So you're swinging with your child as you're going back and forth. And I thought that was just really good for kids who are, who just have different special needs, even babies. Like having that would be really nice, but particularly for kids that have special needs, if they have anxiety or they want to like really see the person, the person isn't standing behind them, they're actually interacting with them on that. So I don't know if that would translate over to children with autism necessarily correctly or well. It might be too much sensory. But if we could think about that in our inclusivity, I think that would be a really cool thing to see on our playgrounds that I haven't seen so far.
Sure. I'd love to answer that. So the first item you're talking about is the communication board. We have a communication board that we just recently installed at Mitchellville South. They had a therapeutic program at their school and they requested a communication board. They are fantastic. We'll be putting one in a College Park and we're looking for more opportunities to put them. I think we have a few others as well. But we're looking for more opportunities to put those communication boards in. It's like you said, they're phenomenal for kids to be able to communicate not just with their parents, but with each other and their peers on the playground. So that's a wonderful, wonderful element. Regarding the swings, so what you're referring to is the friendship swing, or some vendors call it an expression swing. There's multiple options. There's, like you were saying, the small belt swing for the adult. and then the infant swing or 2 belt swings. There is also at the 38th Avenue Park one that is you face each other and they're both high back, which is great for kids who have muscle tone issues. It has a high back similar to the ABA swing, so that they are able to swing with one another, one on each side, and look at each other directly. So we do have one there, and we're putting them in a number of parks. When we go around with the kids and do the Kaboom playgrounds, almost all the kids are always choosing that swing, that friendship swing, expression swing, because they really love it. They just put one in my neighborhood. My kids love that swing, so you're going to see them more and more throughout the parks.
That's awesome. Yeah, the 30th Avenue Park slipped my mind of that having that. So I'm definitely that's gonna get me to go back over there soon. I love like the doghouse and different things that they have over there because it's very easy to get up if you have mobility challenges. And I think that playground in particular is actually really well designed for those children. So thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Dorner, if I may just add another note that we are installing accessibility communication boards at the swimming pools, and that was done in partnership with the therapeutic recreation team.
Great. Awesome. We'll be starting swimming lessons in January with my daughter, so I'm sure she's going to be taking advantage of that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions, commissioners? No other questions? I have no other questions. Can I just say, Ms. Worstall, the level of detail and knowledge you have around this is pretty darn impressive. Commissioner Dorner could not stump you with any of the questions that he had. So I am impressed. So commissioners, if there's no questions that we have, then this is an action item as well, and I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 30 proposed CIP and subsequent submittal to county executive and county council.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote enthusiastically aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Aye.
And Commissioner Dorner.
Thank you for all the great answers to my questions.
I vote aye as well. Well done, team. Really well done. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Director Tyler. Thank you, Ms. Worstall. Thanks to the rest of the team.
And thank you as well. Thank you all as well. And have a very happy holiday.
Thank you, sir. You as well. So move on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, we have 2 items, but staff has asked us to pull one of these items. So item 4B is not on our consent agenda. We won't be considering that. So the only item on our consent agenda is item 4D. And is there any of you who wish to pull item 4D from the consent agenda, or anyone from the public who wants us to? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, after consideration of the records for items number 4D, I move adoption of staff findings and approval of this item on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendation of staff.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Washington. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, I will call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you. Now we're on to our regular agenda items. We will begin with item 5. This is DDS 649 Riverdale Laundromat. It's a departure from design standards. We have Mr. Price, who will be giving the staff presentation, and Mr. Cochran is representing the applicant. There's no opposition on this, so I think we will be moving quickly on this one, but we'll turn to Mr. Price.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, I'm Todd Price with the zoning section. Item 5, DDS 649 for Riverdale Laundromat requests approval of a departure from the design standards for the proposed loading space setback from the adjoining property. This application has been reviewed and evaluated in accordance with the prior zoning ordinance. Staff would like to acknowledge administrative corrections to the technical staff report. On pages 1 and 4, the site location refers to US 295. The correct reference should be Maryland 295. This correction will be reflected in the resolution. Zoning section recommends the planning board adopt the findings of this report and approve DDS 649 with conditions found in the staff report. The applicant has reviewed the technical staff report and is in full agreement. Staff has not received any community opposition to this application. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Commissioners, questions for staff? No questions. Mr. Packard, are you on the line? And do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, my name is Dean Packard. I'm the civil engineer for the project, and I want to thank Mr. Price for his presentation and hard work in putting the application together. And we accept the conditions for approval and look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Packard. Appreciate it. Commissioners, questions for the applicant? No questions. Then I would look for, we're under deliberation, or I look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff to include the technical corrections as mentioned on the record by staff and approve DDS-649 along with the condition as outlined in staff's report.
Second.
I had a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion. I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Price, and thank you, Mr. Packard.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 6. This is a detailed site plan, DSP 17052-01 Hillel at University of Maryland. We have Mr. Taub is representing the applicant. We have Mr. Mitchum, who is going to give a staff presentation. We have a number of folks who have signed up to speak on this item. This is an evidentiary hearing. I will swear folks in when we come to that, because I'm not sure how many of these folks are actually going to be speaking. So, but be prepared that I will be swearing you in. Let's turn to Mr. Mitchum and take it away.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, for the record, James Hunt with the Development Review Division. I wanted to take a quick moment to introduce Josh Mitchum to the Planning Board. Josh started with the Planning Department a few months ago. He's a Planner 3 within the zoning section. He comes to us from the city of Laurel with a significant amount of experience when it comes to planning and zoning. In addition, he actually worked for La Plata as well. So, and he has a Bachelor's of Arts from Urban Studies from the University of Pittsburgh. And in a couple of weeks, he's going to obtain his Master's in Public Administration from American University. So we're really excited about that here. In addition, he is a member of the Honor Society of Pi Alpha Alpha, which is an honor society for public affairs and administration as well. So one fun fact, he was born at 11:59 p.m. So he's one of those kids that could have been either way. It's a minute sooner or later. It could have been either way. So anyway, just real quick, just introducing before the planning board. Welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Thanks for the introduction. And it looks like you got a smart one here with Mr. Mitchum.
Yeah.
Mr. Mitchum, it is a pleasure to meet you, and take it away. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Joshua Mitchum with the Urban Design Section. Item number 6 is detailed site plan DSP 17052-01, an amendment to the prior approved detailed site plan for changes to the exterior and interior of the building. The subject building is Hillel at University of Maryland, which is proposed to be a 39,105 square foot cultural center with an eating and drinking component. In addition, I would like to add that the applicant has recently informed staff that they will not be moving forward with the rooftop basketball court that is described on page 6 of the published technical staff report. Based on the evaluation and analysis, urban design staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings of this report and approve detailed site plan DSP 17052-01, subject to the recommended conditions of approval within the technical staff report. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Questions for staff, commissioners? No questions. Then we will turn to Mr. Taub, who's representing the applicant. Mr. Taub, if you could introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to see you all again. Hope at some point we can all see each other in person in the future. I first want to say, and I guess for the record, I'm Larry Taub, attorney with the firm of O'Malley, Miles, Nowlin, and Gilmore in Greenbelt. Very pleased to be here this morning representing Hillel at the University of Maryland. Before I proceed, I want to just say that in my capacity as city solicitor for the city of Laurel, I had the great fortune to work with Josh as he was a planner there. And now obviously we have a different role here, but I've had a great opportunity. He's a terrific person, and I do greatly appreciate his work on this application. He was really great to work with, and we appreciate his efforts. I would like to, at this point, introduce our team as follows. We have Rabbi Ari Israel, who is the Executive Director of Hillel at Maryland. Sean Lang, who's the Vice President of Operations and Finance at Maryland Hillel. We have Mr. Mark Schlesinger, who is a member of the Hillel Board and is the Chairman of the Building Committee. Mr. Nestor Zabala, who is our architect from Curry Architects in Baltimore. Mr. Tim Davis and Mr. David Bickle from Soltes, our civil engineers. And we have Mr. Aris Michael, who is with Lambda Frank, is our project manager. And we also have with us today Ms. Tracy Skinner, representing the University of Maryland. I want to first indicate here that the status of the property is that this property is currently owned by the University of Maryland, but we are engaging in a property swap with the university in that the university, after we receive all of our approvals and move forward and obtain our building permit, the university will take ownership of the property that Hillel currently occupies at 7612 Moat Lane. And then the property will then be conveyed over, this property will then be conveyed over to Maryland Hillel. So you will note that the university is currently the owner of this property and Hillel is the contract purchaser, but that is the intent, that's what will occur. I also want to indicate that this property and a proposed building on this property was the subject of a detailed site plan that was approved in 2018, I believe it was. And that, unfortunately, because of the pandemic predominantly, the project just could not move forward for a variety of reasons involving the pandemic. And unfortunately, the 3-year period of validity for that detailed site plan ran, and we had to file this new application. But we are very pleased to be here today with what we believe to be a really beautiful building that is proposed for this property. I want to indicate also that we have worked with St. Andrew's Church, our neighbor to the south. They're fully aware of this application. We have discussed all aspects with them, and they're in support of this application as well. I just want to make another point about the security fence that was mentioned in the staff report. When we came before, we went, of course, before the City of College Park, and I do want to indicate that we do appreciate our involvement with the city, and we went before them for 2 hearings, and they did vote to support this application. Subsequent to our last meeting with the university, as a result of the tragic events of October 7th, there was a great ramping up of anti-Semitic and Islamophobic activity on many college campuses across the country. It was noted that the Anti-Defamation League noted that there was almost a 400% increase in anti-Semitic incidents compared to the same period last year. And I would also note that in the Maryland Diamondback, I had here in a moment, it was noted that, and this is a very recent issue, at least 46 hate bias incidents were reported to the university's Bias Incident Support Services office in November, the highest number of reports in any single month since that office was created. Nearly 80% of all hate bias incidents reported to the university's Bias Incident Support Services office in 2023 occurred in October and November. So after we did go before the City of College Park, security consultants from Hillel International consulted with Maryland Hillel with regard to the proposed new building and strongly suggested that we add a 6 to 8 foot security fence, a wrought iron security fence along the southern and eastern borders, predominantly along those borders. And is at that location because it is in those areas that there will be the most amount of exterior activity. And you'll note that from the site plan. And it was strongly felt that there could be easy access from both the south and the east. And it would be very important to go ahead and add a security fence. I want to thank at this point the College Park City Council and their staff because we did come in subsequent to our original approval. The city understood the need for this fence. Unfortunately, this did not arise. I mean, this is sort of the rise in these anti-Semitic incidents had been increasing, and it really got to the point where it was finally recognized that this is something that is very important to this building, and we need to go ahead and protect it, unfortunately, but realistically, as much as possible. And so I again want to thank the city and the city council and the staff for allowing us to come back in and to address this issue. And the city did support the security fence along with the building on the property. I also want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission and their staff because this also came about just literally about a day before our hearing before the Historic Preservation Commission. And again, they were certainly very cooperative and helpful in allowing us to bring this before them as well at that time, even though it was at that late date. And the Historic Preservation did support that as well. We also discussed this with the St. Andrew's Church, and they also supported it. I will say that we have agreed that before we go before the Historic Preservation Commission for what will be a historic area work permit as a requirement of the fact that we are in the Old Town Historic District, we will then, I would say, fine tune the fence and try to make it and work with the church, work with the City of College Park, will appear before the City of College Park, the local advisory commission for the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission with regard to the fence itself. And we will show the particular details, the color design details of the fence at that time. So again, I want to thank all those parties for their cooperation in this, what is really an unfortunate situation, but in their full understanding of the need for this fence. We certainly, again, I want to thank Josh and really all the planning staff for their cooperation and assistance in working on this application. I'm very pleased to be able to say that we are in full agreement with the recommendation of the staff, along with all the conditions. The team members I have here are really here only for any questions that the board may have. But I think Ms. Tracy Skinner from the university is here to say a few words on behalf of the university. So if the board would allow, I'd like to ask her to do so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Warner.
Could I interrupt just before we move on to the next speaker?
Yes.
I just had a question for Mr. Taub. Hello, Mr. Taub.
Hello, Mr. Warner.
Good to see you.
You too.
Just clarify one thing. You said in your testimony that the detailed site plan had expired. So this is a new detailed site plan, but our staff report says it's an amendment.
It's a revision of the former one. I mean, it's the same, we have a new design on this building. So whether, this is always one of those situations where, whether you refer to it as a new application or a revision of the former, it's the same property, virtually the same size building, just a few hundred square foot difference. And everything else about it really was virtually the same. The parking, all elements with the exception of the particular design of the building, and obviously the addition of the fence. But it is, I think it is fair to say that this is the 01 revision of our original DSP 17052.
Okay. Well, I only asked that because if this is a new DSP, then we're coming in under a different section of the zoning ordinance than if this is an amendment to an existing DSP. So I don't know if that was discussed.
Yeah, we discussed this in the early going here, and I think that was determined that because of the funding issues we ran into with the pandemic and other issues that unfortunately caused the postponement of moving forward on this, we again, given the fact that same property, the building is virtually the same size, much about it was very much the same, and that this would be just simply really more accurately described as the 01 revision to the original DSP.
Okay, I get that. But maybe we can just continue with the speakers, and Andrea could join us, or maybe Jill or someone kind of clarify that for us, just so on the record we know if we're talking about a new DSP or an amendment to an existing DSP. Two different sections of the code. We can go ahead under either one. I just want to clarify that for the record.
And Mr. Warner, I'd just say also that really this is just a revision to the architecture of the original building. As I said, it was virtually the same size. So I think all that considered, it really is more accurately described as a revision to the original DSP. Same property, virtually the same size, and just a revision to the design elements. In any case,
I think the issue is, maybe this question for you, Mr. Mitchum or Mr. Hunt, how did the staff evaluate this? Under what criteria did the staff use to evaluate this?
Yes, so again, this is Joshua Mitchum with staff here. It looks like, so we reviewed per section 27-1704E. If you would allow me to pull that up for a moment here.
Right, so that would be an amendment to an existing
DSP.
DSP.
An existing one, yes. It was identified as the footprint for Hillel on the original site plan was, obviously different than what was proposed now. And so this was identified as an amendment to the exterior of the building, which changes the footprint and of course the security fence and among other things. So that's why it was reviewed as an amendment to the previously approved DSP with all of its departures and amendments as well. So.
Okay, and just looking at the statement of justification, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
It sounds like Mr. Warner, we're all aligned then. Is what I'm hearing.
Well, just to make sure this is clarified in the record, looking at your statement of justification, Mr. Taub, this DSP actually is still active until the end of the year, right?
No. That was the preliminary plan of subdivision. Is what you're referring to, Mr. Warner, I believe. This was approved in early 2018, I believe, and so therefore it expired in 2021.
Okay.
The original 17052.
It says in your statement of justification, sorry everybody, but I just want to make sure, it says that 17052 was approved for the subject property in 2018 and is set to expire at the end of the year. So,
well,
maybe that's why it's an amendment.
Here's the thing, it may have been that when we originally went in for the application, that was where we are at that point in time, but it certainly has expired by now. And I think there's no question about that. That was, as was stated, it was approved in 18, 3-year life expired in 21, and here we are in 2020, at the end of 2023.
Okay, well, like I said, the planning board can consider this under two different ways in the code. So we're free to go ahead and review this, and we can address the particular code provisions with the resolution. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. If we take action on this today, doesn't it matter how it's been reviewed and how we're taking action on it?
Not really, Chairman, because when we review an amendment to a detailed site plan, we apply the same procedures that we apply when we review a new detailed site plan. So unless it's a minor amendment. So either way, you're looking at the same criteria, so that's fine.
Okay, all right, good. All right. So you were asking Ms. Skinner to speak. Ms. Skinner, this is an evidentiary hearing, so I'm going to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And if you could introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Hello, board members and planning board staff and all attendees. My name is Tracy Skinner. I am the Senior Real Estate Counsel for the University of Maryland College Park. I have been involved in this project by working with Mr. Taub and his partner on various agreements between the university and Hillel to make this project a success within the community. The university's Assistant Vice President of Real Estate, Ed McGinnis, would be here to speak in support of this project, but he had a scheduling conflict that could not be changed. But in Mr. McGinnis's words, and to show his support for this project, I will start by saying that he calls this a homecoming for Hillel. In the mid to late 1900s, Hillel owned this site, and then it was transferred to the University of Maryland College Park, and Hillel had established its current center out on Mowat Lane, which is at the far western boundaries of the university's campus. It's a homecoming because Hillel, with this project, will be returning to a site that it previously owned. It will be returning to Old Town. It will be returning to a site that is much more centrally located for the campus and the College Park, the city of College Park community. And we are glad to see this relocation of the center. We are pleased to join with the city of College Park, and by we, I am speaking for the university. The university is pleased to join with the city of College Park in supporting this project. As some of you know already, Hillel plays a very important role with the university's Jewish student community, including providing food service and other support for their members. And we're pleased to support what the center does for the Jewish community, not just on campus, but within the city of College Park. The project will include a cafe and is very accessible to the local community. The new location is far more visible and accessible. It's served by the university's shuttle bus, which is a good form of transportation for this location. And it's also more connected. There's connectivity for walking, for bike riding to get to and from the center. The real estate transaction behind this, just for your information, the university currently owns this site, as I mentioned earlier. Hillel and the university will exchange sites. They'll swap land. We will grant this land to Hillel for its project to be built, and Hillel will grant the university its current site on Mowat Lane. This is a win-win transaction for everyone. This site is much better for the services that Hillel provides to the community. And the site on Mowat Lane is a very strategic parcel of land for the university for its further development. I think with all that said, I will close by saying the university supports this project. They're pleased with the project and how it's being presented and how it will be completed. We have had good working relationships with Mr. Taub and with all the members of Hillel, and we'd like to see that continue. We want to support, the university wants to support its Jewish community, and this is the project to get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Much appreciated. Questions for Ms. Skinner, commissioners? Mr. Taub, back to you.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Just one point of clarification.
Wait, Mr. Taub, question, Commissioner Dorner.
So it's not just close to biking or accessible. It's like extremely close So if you go block down and 4 blocks over, you get to our trails that we own and we operate throughout the county. So this is going to be great because I'm probably going to come up and use that cafe if this goes in, because I would love to see what the food is.
Yeah, I would join you in those remarks, Commissioner.
And Mr. Donner, or Commissioner Donner, I appreciate that because I know how much the connectivity means to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Dorner and Mr. Chairman. Just one point that I neglected to point out, that is that our original site plan actually did show a fence on the property, but the fence was really more, I'm going to say more decorative. It was not the type of security fence that unfortunately was advised, that Hillel was advised to put on this property in any way. So the addition of the security fence, there was a fence proposed, but this was a much more secure, a more substantial fence than was originally anticipated. With that, I would say, again, we thank the staff and the commission for the work on this matter. I believe representatives of the City of College Park are here as well, but that would conclude our presentation. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Questions for the applicant, commissioners? No questions. I see representatives from the City of College Park. Would you all like to speak as well?
Yes. Can you hear me?
You're very, very soft, Ms. Bader.
Oh, okay, let me speak louder.
That's better. I do need to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand.
Sure.
You solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Take it away.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Shapiro and Planning Board members. This is Miriam Bader. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of College Park. And today I'm speaking on behalf of the City of College Park City Council. The council met on November 14th and voted unanimously to support approval with conditions of detailed site plan 17052-01. Hillel, and supports the modifications to the development district and supports the departure. After the November 14th City Council meeting, city staff and council members were aware of the applicant's intent to amend their DSP application to include the installation of a 6-foot tall wrought iron security fence along the southern and eastern boundary of the subject property. The City Council considered this request this past Tuesday night, December 5th, and unanimously approved or passed the following motion. I move that the City Council recommend approval to the Planning Board of revised detailed site plan 17052-01 to include the concept of a proposed security fence subject to the conditions approved on November 14th, 2023, and the agreement by Hillel to a declaration of covenants and agreement regarding land use. The council expressed concerns about the impact the fence would have on aesthetics and on the view shed of the Hillel building. To address this concern, a condition was included in a declaration of covenants and agreement between the city and Hillel. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Bader. Appreciate it. Ms. Ferguson, anything from you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here as the attorney if needed.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussion, deliberation? If not, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve DSP-17052-01 along with the conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo, I believe. Yes. Under discussion, I just want to make sure that this captures Mr. Warner or staff, Mr. Mitchum, that this captures all of the conversations and back and forth with Hillel, the university, the City of College Park, this feels all copacetic to you?
Yes, urban design staff agrees with the comments that are provided.
Okay, great. So we've got a motion, a second. Any further discussion of the motion? Seeing
Yeah,
none, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll just mention, not particularly on the motion, but in the case in general, that it's painful to hear of all the rise in the hate crimes that have been happening. It's just completely uncalled for. This has been a really tough last couple of months for the Jewish community here in the US as well as abroad, worldwide. So I hope that whatever the outcome of this case is and kind of going forward, that you can find peace and quiet and happiness throughout the season. Hopefully today you get a good vote, and then as you light your candles tonight at sundown, then it'll be a happy celebration in multiple ways. And happy Hanukkah to all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dorner. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the kind words. Much appreciated. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye and adopt the sentiments of Commissioner Dorner.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorner. And Vice Chair Bailey.
But aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Taub, the rest of the team. Thank you, Ms. Bader, Ms. Ferguson, City of College Park. Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. And thank you, Ms. Skinner, University of Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday.
We have 7 before us. I'm going to suggest that we take a break. So let's take let's go till 12:05. I have 11:52. Let's go to 12:05. So we'll come back at 12:05 and we'll pick up on item 7 on our regular agenda.
Thank you.
12:05. We are still recording, so let us come back in session. We're on a brief recess, and we're taking up item 7 on our regular agenda. This is a remand by the District Council for a conceptual site plan at CSP 21001 Little Lane property. This case was approved at the Planning Board meeting of June 1st, 2023, and was remanded by the Council on September 11th, 2023. We have Mr. Tedesco representing the applicant. We have a number of folks who signed to speak on this. Lockhart will give the staff presentation. Before we do, I just want to read into the record some thoughts and reactions to this remand. So on June, this is a procedural issue, but I do want this on the record. On June 1st, 2023, we, the Planning Board, conducted a properly noticed evidentiary hearing on this application, and we approved it 4-0. Commissioner Dorner, I believe you were absent, which is why it was 4-0. The District Council elected to review our approval, and at the council meeting on September 11th, several members of the public commented that they missed the opportunity to appear at our hearing. The council remanded the matter to us to take additional testimony. Now, the reason for the remand, as stated in the council's order, was because persons of record were deprived, their words, deprived of their right to give testimony. I discussed the record of our June 1st hearing with council and was advised that all the required notices were given and that our hearing was otherwise properly conducted. In short, if members of the public were deprived of the right to participate in our hearing, it was not through a failure of the Planning Board. And while I'm personally concerned that remanding a matter to us without any foundation, there's no error, nothing on the substance of the issue, I don't want this to open the door to remand decisions of the Planning Board because there's additional interest in wanting to speak, because that is not a grounds for a remand. It's just not. Now, I understand that there are several members of the public who feel that they were not offered the chance to provide testimony, and without a doubt, we are happy to hear from folks in the public on this matter and looking forward to hearing what folks have to say. We have the discretion to do that with a remand before us. So we will be reopening the hearing on CSP 21001. I just want to make it clear that by any objective measure, there was not a sufficient basis for remanding this case to us. I want to make it crystal clear that this is not avoiding an opportunity for public testimony, and I 100% respect the interest of the folks in the community who want to make sure their voice is heard. I appreciate your advocacy on this issue. I appreciate you pushing the district council. All of this has nothing to say about what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm with you 100%. I'm just speaking strictly on a procedural matter and with the action that the district council took, which in our estimation was an inappropriate action. So I want to make that clear in the record. Mr. Warner, anything you want to add on that or anything I may have missed?
No, that accurately reflects my thoughts as well.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. And again, for folks in the public, please do not take that personally, because without a doubt, we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. This is a procedural matter that I wanted to address between us and the district council, and on what an appropriate grounds is for a remand. Okay. So with that, we will begin the process. Commissioners, any comments or reactions just in terms of the procedural piece? Anything any of you want to add, or we're okay to keep moving?
Just a question for Mr. Warner, perhaps. Should I abstain, and I can turn off my camera if maybe since I wasn't in the original hearing?
If you're well acquainted with the minutes and the testimony from the meeting on June 1st, you can participate in this one as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've read the materials, so that's fine then. I'll stay on.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your asking. So again, this is CSP 21001 Linda Lane property. It's before us on a remand. We have Mr. Tedesco representing the applicant. Ms. Lockhart will give the staff presentation. We will be swearing folks in who will be speaking. We probably have a number of folks who are already signed up to speak here. Let me ask all those who are preparing to speak, if you're listening to this, if you could come online. Ideally, I'd like to be able to see you, but if not, at least make sure that you're hearing me, because I'm going to swear you all in. Okay, so for all those who are planning on speaking, and I'll ask as we go along, I'll ask if you've been sworn in, and for anyone who hasn't been sworn in, we can swear you in at the time that you're about to speak. So for all of you, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Right. Okay, consider yourself sworn in. Let us turn to staff. Ms. Lockhart, you will be giving the staff presentation. Take it away.
Good morning. Doing a quick sound check. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Fine.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Dominique Lockhart with the Zoning Section. Item number 7 on the agenda is Conceptual Site Plan CSP-21001 titled Linda Lane Property, which proposes a mixed-use development containing multifamily, commercial, and retail. Next slide, please. The site is located in western Prince George's County as depicted by the red dot within Planning Area 76B and Council District 8. Next slide, please. More specifically, the 5.6-acre site outlined in red is located in the southwest quadrant of the intersection of Linda Lane and Branch Avenue. Next slide.
Ms. Lockhart, let me pause you for a second. I don't know if anyone else is having this problem. I don't see this. I don't see the slides. Do other people see the slides? Is it just my camera?
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay. All right.
I can see it, Mr. Chair.
Solution. So keep going.
The current zoning of the property is CN for commercial neighborhood. The prior zoning of the property was MXT, or the mixed use transportation oriented zone. The application is proceeding under the prior zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. The property is located within the military installation overlay height zone. Next slide. The aerial photograph shows that the site outlined in red is currently developed. Next slide. The topography map shows the site is relatively flat with minimal slopes. Next slide, please. This slide shows the master plan rights-of-way in the vicinity of the site. Branch Avenue to the east, shown in orange, is noted as a freeway. Old Branch Avenue to the west of the site, shown in green, is noted as a collector roadway. Next slide, please. This slide shows a closer look of the developed property. The site is currently developed with 2 single-family detached dwellings and a commercial office building. Next slide, please. Shown here is a survey of the subject parcels detailing their existing conditions. Next slide. The applicant proposes to develop the property as a mixed-use development project consisting of multifamily residential units and commercial retail space. Only one building is proposed with this CSP. Both surface and structured parking is shown. The maximum number of dwelling units will be established with this application, which is requested as 105 multifamily dwelling units. At the detailed site plan stage, architecture, landscaping, and parking compliance will be fully evaluated. Next slide, please. The application proposes 2 access points from Linda Lane and Old Branch Avenue. The illustrative plan shows a pedestrian connection from Linda Lane to the mixed-use building and to the surface parking lot. At the time of preliminary plan of subdivision, the applicant will be required to provide a new traffic impact study to aid in the evaluation of transportation adequacy. Next slide, please. In conclusion, based on the findings presented in the technical staff report, staff recommends that the planning board approve conceptual site plan CSP-21001, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Commissioners, questions for staff? No questions. And again, I would, just based on the comments that I provided earlier, there is nothing that the district council has brought to our attention that we need to be reconsidering beyond allowing for additional input from the public. So the public may have some issues that we can take into account. But there's nothing specific that the district council is asking us to look at, some error or the like that they're asking us to address. So it's one of the reasons why we're not hearing anything from staff related to responding to what the council has said. So with that, I will turn to the applicant before we hear from folks in the public. Mr. Tedesco, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Matthew Tedesco with the law firm of McNamee Hosey, here on behalf of the property owner and applicant. Mr. Chairman, for all the reasons that you stated at the beginning of this hearing and for the reasons you just stated, I wouldn't have anything further to add that wouldn't otherwise be redundant to what's already in the record. I would further incorporate and adopt the summary and presentation from June 1st. And I would, pursuant to the remand order, item number 2, I would suggest that it's probably appropriate at this time to hear from the citizens that have registered to speak today in response to the remand. And with the board's permission, I would like to at least then have an opportunity to respond if needed with any closing comments at that time.
Thank you for that. And of course, that will be our procedure. You will, as the applicant, you will have the opportunity for rebuttal and close. So thank you. Questions for the applicant, commissioners? Seeing none, we will take testimony from those who've signed up to speak. I just want to go through my list and see who is here, just so we can figure out how to manage our time. So Monique Adams, are you here? Shinyatta Rivers, I see. Ms. Rivers, thank you. Monique Taylor, do I see? Yes, I see you, Ms. Taylor, thank you. Tony Wilson, Mr. Wilson, you're here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Excellent. Jana Parker?
My name is pronounced Jana.
Jana, I'm sorry, Ms. Parker. Jana Parker. We have Ms. Parker, Yolanda Boyd, I see. Delonta Harrison, Ms. Harrison? No. Cynthia Johnson, I see. Anyone else I've missed? Okay, great. So we'll go in the order that we have listed there. You'll each have up to 3 minutes to speak. There'll be a clock that'll show just to help us manage the time. If you could introduce yourself for the record. As you speak, I'll just ask each of you to make sure you were sworn in, but as I'm looking around, I think all of you were sworn in, but I'll just verify that. So with that, we'll start with Ms. Ms. Adams was not here, so we will start with Ms. Rivers. Take it away, introduce yourself, and you were sworn in, correct?
Yes, I was.
Thank you, Ms.
Greetings, everyone. Before I begin, is it possible to have more than 3 minutes? Or is that the limit?
How much time do you need? Let me know.
6 minutes?
Other folks, I want to manage the time overall. So if there's nobody else who needs a whole lot more time, I think we can be flexible around that. Is that okay?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. Again, for the record, my name is Shunyata Rivers, and I do appreciate this opportunity to speak. I've registered to speak today to express concerns about the development that is coming to Linda Lane. And I do have 5 areas that I would like to share. One concern is traffic. The second is parking. The third is environmental concerns. The fourth is crime. And then fifth, I just have some questions that need answers. So for concern 1, with respect to what was in the CSP for traffic, it is mentioned that Branch Avenue is a heavily traveled roadway. And just as a resident that lives nearby, we witness major congestion on a daily basis. I would say starting from 2:30 in the afternoon all the way to as late as 6:30 in the evening. And that does not factor in inclement weather or your run-of-the-mill rainy day. Not to mention during seasonal holidays when people choose not to travel I-95 South and they choose to go down Branch Avenue to make it to Route 301. So we do experience a lot of traffic. So with that in mind, my question is, how does the applicant propose entering the site coming from the Beltway? Second, based on the high density load, what is the plan for acceleration and deceleration zones on Branch Avenue? In particular, if I come from Red Lobster as an example, it's very dangerous to cross and make it to Linda Lane. So let alone now we have people coming to possibly an apartment complex or retail, it can possibly be a danger zone. And then last, I think I heard it, but when was the traffic study done and what year, or if it will be done? Concern 2 for parking, what are the requirements for the number of parking spaces for the occupants in this development? Are the requirements 1-to-1? So if we look at the complex as a whole, when someone visits an occupant and then someone visits retail, where will they park? Now they're going to be parking in our community. We already have a problem with abandoned vehicles in our community, with vehicles that may be oversized and the like. And so now we're going to increase that if we have more traffic to our area. Is there an underground parking requirement for the applicant? If not, there should be, because people will park on Linda Lane, Old Branch Avenue, and then possibly try Branch Avenue. And as we talked about parking, what about the pedestrian traffic? Unfortunately, there are no sidewalks really near where we live. And so now we're introducing another aspect that will enhance the congestion, if you will. Where are the pedestrians going to go? And then how do we manage that traffic? If you introduce the light at Linda Lane, we are going to cue that traffic not only onto Branch Avenue, but now onto major interstates such as 495. Concern 3 is environmental concerns. Once this project gets underway, what is the pollution? What is the control for dust and the like once we start getting into development? How about noise control? What is the length of time that this project would take? We have not heard that. And so I would be interested in hearing those answers. And so I do have some concerns in that area. For concern number 4 in particular, it's crime. And so the proposed plans, it talks about high density apartment dwellings along with retail. And we've seen this movie before in our area. In Suitland, Maryland, for example, there was a apartment complex that had a reputation for crime and drugs. And there was an article in the Washington Post that was dated back in 2000. And it talked about a plan to change the area because of what was happening in those apartments. And I quote from the article, the density of the complex, often with 4 or 5 and sometimes more people living in 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, has made the place ripe for crime and neglect. It is crime in and around Suitland Manor that has given all of Suitland, even the quiet pockets of single family homes, a poor reputation, residents of the area say, end quote. So if I fast forward to today, there are several members of my family and just loved ones that have moved out of high density apartments in this local area due to crime and illegal activity. Not that long ago, possibly a month ago, there was a shooting at a local apartment complex down the street from here. And we had officers come to our civic association meeting to discuss that and to talk to us as members of the community to request our help. So this is not something that we wish to come to our area. Concern number 5 is just questions that need answers. 1, have we identified that there is really a scarcity of apartments specifically for this area where we need to put an apartment at that specific location? 2, is there a way where, we're not interested in apartments, but neither motel or hotel? That was also in the CSP. And so how could we not have that included? Also, we regard our communities. So with an addition of more people in our area, then that means our infrastructure has to increase. So do we have room for more police, more schools, more fire departments and the like to address the new people that would be living in our area? We already have a time with emergency response wait time. And so now what would we do if we have a greater population? Was a market study done? Is it available publicly? And so I think with those concerns, I don't think this is a good fit for what the applicant is proposing for our area with respect to traffic, parking, environmental concerns, and then possibly crime, and then some of those questions that I posed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rivers. Thanks for taking the time to speak. And I imagine that the applicant will be addressing some of these issues in his rebuttal. Some of these are more relevant at the detailed site plan level than the conceptual site plan level, but he'll address that. And I really do appreciate you taking the time and having your verse heard. Thank you. Next on our list, we have Monique Taylor with the Camp Springs Civic Association. Ms. Taylor?
Good afternoon, Chairman Shapiro and the Planning Board. My name is Monique Taylor. I live in Camp Spring, and I am the president of the Camp Spring Civic Association. I am here speaking on behalf of the community that opposes the 105 multifamily unit concept plan proposed by Curtis Investment, Inc. and their representatives. Dropping a 5-story building in this single-family community does not fit the community. And this is out of place and it's out of character for our area. On May the 11th and September the 5th, we had meetings that included Mr. Tedesco, who's the representative, and the residents of Camp Springs and the members of the board of directors made it known that the community do not support or want a multifamily unit on the Linden Lane property. Recently, we had a meeting on November 27th. That was the board met with the representative to discuss and obtain clarity, but re-emphasize the sentiments of the community that opposes the current concept plan. We also, the Camp Springs Civic Association, along with Henderson Road Neighborhood Watch, conducted a survey of the community. And in the results of the survey, it was a resounding opposition for the current concept site plan. That information was sent to you all via, like you could upload information. So you have the results of the survey. It gives you all the details. And I want to emphasize that the community we are not opposed to development, but oppose the current mixed use 105 multi-family unit site plan. We want development that benefit our community with the voice of the community leading the way. As a result, we sent the Curtis Investment representative alternative development for this site that includes coffee shops, professional office buildings to service the community, healthy groceries like a mom's, cafe, dining, fast casual dining, and include some healthy restaurants in our area. We also sent to the representative an email dating back to February of 2018 that identified the stipulation for this property as the Civic Association supported the new zoning at that time. and the stipulation were as follows. We wanted the opportunity to consult on the changes to the rezoning plans. We said that we do not want a 24-hour development, no adult entertainment or liquor store, no marijuana dispensary, and wanted to be reassured efforts will be made to address all potential traffic issues.
Gotcha.
Currently, Linda Lane and Old Branch Avenues are 2-lane and is being impacted from the massive traffic from Branch Avenue and the Beltway. Traffic, as you all know, is a beast in this region. It seems like no one cares or have any solution, but we just build and let the community deal with the impact of the traffic. The county is promoting mixed-use communities by the metro station. This concept plan that is being presented is appropriate and better suited for the Branch Avenue metro station, not dropped into an established single-family home community. We're also concerned with the effort of the environment.
Ms. Taylor, let me ask you to wrap up soon, okay?
Okay. So I'll just say, as she said, environment. We have luscious, mature trees. And when you say that in the new concept, it takes 30 years for these saplings to develop. I think that the county, we all are being affected by us just tearing down all the trees in the community. They talk about retail and our history about retail units being part of it's very, very sketchy for us. We can, example is Tribeca at Camp Springs, where the retail spaces was there empty for years. Currently, they just got a nail shop, dental office, and a daycare center, and it's still empty spaces. Restaurant Row, behind that development, there's still a lot of empty spaces. How would this be different on this site? We find it problematic issues with multifamily housing. We can take the courts of Camp Springs, which have crimes for car rings, car theft, carjacking, shooting, stabbing, and drug dealing. And Ms. Rivers referenced the 2000, but I have a 2020 about this at the courts of Camp Springs. We have a little apartment, Apollo Apartments. They have a secure parking lot, but they've had numerous of break-ins or car thefts in that community. I will wrap it up at that, but I want to reemphasize, we support development. We support the Curtis and their representative, but we cannot support this concept plan as presented. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Appreciate you taking the time. Next, we have Mr. Wilson, Tony Wilson, Henderson Road Neighborhood Watch.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon and greetings, everyone. My name is Tony Wilson. I'm Vice President of the Henderson Road Neighborhood Watch and a proud resident of Camp Springs. Mr. Chairman, with respect to your comment on the meeting, personally, I did not receive a notice to meet after June 1 or on June 1. I did not, even though I signed up in May, after seeing a notice that was on the property, I still did not receive a notice. I did, however, receive a notice for the meeting today from Ms. Lockhart, and so for that, I'm grateful. I did receive your findings. I did provide a 11-page response to those findings at the time, but I think also to the developer's credit, they did post and they did perform as requested, but I can admit personally on my part some ambiguity to know in the process. Be that as it may, I provided 2 video emails outlining not only the results of the recent Camp Springs survey that was conducted in response to the district council remand, but I've also provided additional remarks for the record. And the supplemental details provided, we asked to be admitted for the official record, but also forwarded to the district council as they move to vote on any final determinations for this project. Initially, opposition was due to both traffic and public safety concerns. We also wanted to be known that the Camp Springs community is not against development, not at all. But we are about helping with the process to shape smart development. The developers' representatives in a recent call last week, that was on November 27th, they assured several members of the community that this application is for future development possibilities. and they did not foresee any development plan, scrap stone, in the near future. For that, we were grateful. When asked if there was any financial project numbers or cost numbers within the developer's budget that had been established for these efforts, the developer's representative said no. This we found a little strange, but we moved to reserve judgment. So in the spirit of goodwill, we pressed forward in an effort to not only cooperate, but to hear them out. Upon conclusion of the meeting, the community members gathered approximately 7 days later, prior to the scheduled meeting, to get a consensus. In our discussions, we also found additional evidence of a previous approval of a 2-story development on this site. As such, this aligns with the results of the community survey included in the record. The community, we have said no overwhelmingly on this project in its current state, but we're willing to support the zoning changes for this parcel, if any. And we're also willing to consider any future development at the site as suggested by the developers, but with the stipulations that we agreed upon back on February 6th of 2018. And we provided a copy of that email for the record for review and for consideration. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Wilson. And appreciate, again, with the others, appreciate you taking the time. Next, we have Jana Parker. Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Parker, and for others, I just want to make sure I forgot to ask if you were all sworn in. Mr. Wilson, you were sworn in. Ms. Taylor, you were sworn in, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's
Ms.
correct.
Parker, sworn in, right?
Yes, I was sworn in.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Parker. Floor is yours. And we'll put
Yeah,
3 minutes
I'll-
up to help manage the time, okay?
Thank you. I want to first address the things that you said when you opened up this meeting. And I want to be very clear that it is very inappropriate to tell us not to take it personal, that essentially this shouldn't have been remanded when several of the community members came to the county council and said they did not get proper notification. That's inappropriate, and that I do take that personal. I think this is indicative of what a lot of members across Prince George's County, a lot of residents and constituents have said across Prince George's County, and feeling as though, as a resident and as a constituent, the elected officials and people in office of certain degrees that are designed to listen to the constituents do not take our feedback and our feelings into consideration when they make decisions that directly impact and affect us. I do think that you should give every member of the community on this call extra time, as that Mr. Tedesco, the applicant, the representative for the applicant, will not only have to rebut our comments, but will also have the closing. So that being said, I'm going to give back some of my time so that my other people can speak, but I wanted to address that first. I wanted to also say that I've been on several community meetings with Camp Springs Civic Associations throughout the community, and all of them has said within the directly impacted zone and outside of it, for people who have to travel through that area, that they do not approve of this site plan, that they do not agree with it, they do not like it, they do not want it to go through, and that they are willing to, across the county, people who not only live in that direct area, but who have to work there, who come there to eat and things of that nature, will come and make additional statements on this and provide testimony to their council members directly, because we do not agree with this particular site plan. I want to end by reaffirming that to talk about a process that the residents say that they weren't fully invested in or informed about, and not acknowledge that there have been times in where this board in particular has not informed certain residents within Prince George's County. We can talk about Westphalia, or we don't have to, but that has happened in the past as well. And subsequently, that has cost the county thousands of dollars. So we're here as a community saying that we do not want this.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. I appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Yolanda Boyd. And you were sworn in, Ms. Boyd, correct? Hey, Ms. Boyd, we can't hear you. Your mic's on, but we can't hear you. No, sorry, we can't hear you. Take your time, okay? My guess is you have to change the setting on your computer. Can't hear you. If worst comes to worst, Ms. Boyd, you can call in and then with your phone, and then we'll be able to hear you. And maybe somebody from the staff can help Ms. Boyd. We're not going to forget you, Ms. Boyd, but I'm going to move on, and so you can figure out your technology. We will come back to you, and let me ask somebody from the staff to reach out and see if we can get you with the phone number so you can call in, okay? So let's move on. We'll come back to Ms. Boyd. I have Ms. Johnson, Cynthia Johnson. And Ms. Johnson, you were sworn in, correct?
Yes, I was. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
same thing. We'll put 3 minutes up on the clock up in front of you, and if you could introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Sure. My name is Cynthia Johnson. I'm a proud homeowner and long-term PG County resident. Most recently, I've lived in the Temple Hills area for about 8 years. I do want to thank you for allowing me to speak. This is the first time I'm speaking before the commission, so I apologize if maybe some of the things I'm saying are not within your reach and you can't act on. And I also do want to point out that I did not participate in that survey. I had no idea about that survey, but I thought the results were very illuminating. They're right along with my same thought process, and I appreciate everyone else who has come in and kind of said the same thing. So I guess I'm going to probably echo a lot of what they were saying. So my first concern is I want to make note that this community has faced a lack of targeted smart development and improvements, at least since I've lived here, which have exacerbated issues such as traffic, crime, and further crumbling our inadequate road infrastructure. I don't know if any of you have driven down Old Branch, but I know someone who actually had to have their car towed because the road messed their vehicle up so bad. So the current structure and design of Route 5, Allentown Road, and Old Branch junctions is just wholly insufficient, leading to increased challenges for all of the residents. I provided an illustration showing the widening of Linda Lane, which is the road coming off of Route 5, and Old Branch to accommodate a dedicated turn lane that would go into the development, and then a dedicated turn lane that would go into the community off of Linden Lane to hopefully decrease traffic congestion there. I also had a chance to look through some of the comments that were submitted, and I haven't read them all, but I did want to emphasize a few points that many others didn't touch on, which they may. I haven't heard them speak. But I do have safety concerns as far as it relates to access to the development via foot, particularly on Middleton Lane and Henderson Road, which are the two main thoroughroads in the area that connect over to Old Branch. There is zero sidewalk infrastructure. So saying that this is a proposed development that will be walkable is laughable, to be honest. It falls short from reality because there's zero capability of getting to the development. I mean, I guess you could if you want to get ran over. Middleton is a very heavily trafficked road that already has speed bumps on it because people fly down that road so much. I would suggest that mandatory installation of sidewalks, at least on one side of Middleton Lane and one side of Henderson Road, is crucial for the safety and the well-being of the community in conjunction with this development. And I will say that we should probably have sidewalks regardless of the development of this project because there is no way of getting out of the neighborhoods. Additionally, the crime issues that already exist in the shopping centers at Allentown and Old Branch Conjunction pose a significant risk to the community by bringing it closer into our homes. While the county council now mandates security cameras for properties with over 100 housing units, which I have a feeling they'll say, oh, we have 99, we don't need surveillance. The transient nature of the visitors that will come in and out of a mixed-use development demands increased security surveillance. We cannot afford to have an influx of people coming into our community without having proper security measures. And I didn't even think about the fact that it does take a very long time to get police to respond. Therefore, adding in additional people when we already have a situation where we have an insufficient amount of a police force is concerning. And also someone else mentioned how multiple generations will live in these communities, in these apartments. And so if you have one person living there, they more than likely have 5, 6 other people who are there. So we're not bringing in 105 new people. We're potentially bringing in 500 new people, plus everyone coming into the businesses. That is a lot of additional police work, firefighter, ambulance, all of the critical services to the community. Have 2 more points. The green building design is also crucial for sustainability. We have not had much smart design in the community. I propose making this a green building design requirement, and that includes building supplies, parking material, insulation, alternative energy sources, because let's be real, retrofitting post facto is costly, environmentally burdensome, and a scenario that we can just avoid by putting these standards in place now. Finally, I will say that it is very critical. There has been a lack of transparency in this project communication to the community. Recently, I have seen the attorneys speak to the community. Their retrospective and theoretical nature of all of their discussion has left this community completely uninformed with the lack of details that they have been telling us. Transparent and truthful communication is essential to build trust with this community, and I urge for a more comprehensive sharing of information, ensuring that we all have a well-informed and we are able to make our voices heard on this. Our community is at stake, and I do not believe the commission should approve this project as is. I trust that you will take these into consideration and take proper action, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Appreciate it. Let's go back to Ms. Boyd and see if we can, hopefully she's able to call in. Ms. Boyd, do we hear you?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. This is Jessica. I'm on the line with Ms. Boyd. She had to log off. She's trying to call in now. So if you can just give us a little bit more time.
Okay. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break, and hopefully we'll get this worked out. So it's 12:45. We'll come back at 12:50. Excellent. We can hear you. Okay. Hold on one sec. We're going to gather back, and then I'll give you the opportunity to speak. Just 1 second here, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are all here. We're back from a brief break. Next person on our speakers list is Yolanda Boyd. Ms. Boyd, if you could introduce yourself for the record. And again, we'll put the clock up to help us manage the time, and the floor is yours.
Okay. First, let me say good afternoon to all, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that I have with my laptop. It did say that you had muted me and that I needed to be unmuted by you. But I just want to say I have 4 concerns. The first concern is traffic. The second concern is theft and vandalism, safety, and noise. We have had, I am opposed to this because I believe that building will stand out as a white elephant. If you look around, there is no mixed-use areas around, and there are many vacant retail properties in our area already. So are we just going to add to more empty spaces? I just think that there should be a smarter development issue brought up. I'm just not opposed to it, but I just think that concept is wrong. And I just, thank you for the time and wish everybody happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. And I'm glad we worked through the technology issues, and I'm glad we got to hear your voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did I miss anyone else? Was anyone else who signed up to speak? Okay, then we have no one else signed up. I will now turn to the applicant for any rebuttal and then close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Matthew Tedesco, again, on behalf of the the owner and applicant, subsidiaries and affiliates of Curtis Investment Group Incorporated. First and foremost, I want to thank all of the citizens who took time today to provide their thoughts and commentary. As a representative of the owner and the applicant, we take all of their thoughts and considerations quite seriously. Both myself and the GS Proctor team, who have been actively meeting with and continue to meet with the residents and the community with respect to this project or any project in the immediate area, we take it very seriously, and I want to thank them for that. I want to thank, I don't want to start naming people by name, but I do want to thank Ms. Taylor for her accommodations in facilitating us to meet both back on May 11th as well as September 5th, and then just recently on November 27th. I do think those meetings are exceptionally important, and we do try to provide as much information as we know it at the time to all the residents, and we'll continue to engage in that dialogue as we move forward. I think the critical issue for this property, I don't want to say project, but for this property, is the circumstances in which we all find ourselves in as it relates to this application. Not project, but application. And I explained this to you all in June, and we've tried to explain this to the community as best we can, although I readily admit that it's quite confusing and can be certainly misunderstood. So allow me the indulgence again for the record and for you all, as I indicated in June, and as we, Mr. Proctor and I have indicated to the community members. This application is circumstantially based. And what I mean by that is this property went through a zoning map amendment, a piecemeal rezoning ZMA, which was A-10043 back in 2017, 2018, culminating in the approval of the rezoning by the District Council in July of 2018. That's where it has sat for the last 5 years, with just that property being placed in the MXT zone. And but for the countywide map amendment that was adopted and took effect on April 1st, 2022, that has a transitional period as it relates primarily to all properties in the county, but in particularly the MXT zone. As we all know, and as you have heard, not all the MXT zones were placed in comparable zones. There was a matrix that was done. And as a result, there's a transitional period in the county with respect to MXT zone properties. And if a conceptual site plan is approved, then the owners or the applicants, the owner has flexibility going forward under the conceptual site plan, under the old zoning ordinance or under the new zoning ordinance. So the property owner, who is Curtis Investment Property, is owned and operated primarily by Mr. George Curtis, who is a resident of Prince George's County for the last 80 years, lives in Brandywine. This is their headquarters for their real estate company. All of his employees go to this facility every day and work on behalf of the real estate company. We were approached as far as the sunsetting of the existing 2-year transitional period and asked what happens to our MXT zoning and the development in the future if a conceptual site plan is not advanced. And so we explained to them what that meant and what the transitional period allowed for, to provide and have the greatest flexibility possible, to facilitate some future redevelopment at some date, to have the ability to either use the prior MXT zone, which has been an exceptionally successful zone in the county, or to go down an unknown new zone, which has not yet been tested or proven. To have the flexibility, we have to file a conceptual site plan application. That's what we've done. I fully understand, and we understand, and my client understands the concerns related to what is shown on paper as it relates to this project, as it relates to this application. But it is an application. We do not have, and I will state it again, we do not have any immediate plans for redevelopment of this site. Everything on this conceptual site plan, admittedly, is prospectively aspirational as it relates to the MXT zone, the permitted tables of uses, and the permitted density that's allowed. It does not mean that this is what will ultimately be developed on this property. We do not have any development plans at this point outside of a conceptual site plan application that has to show some level of density, because under the section of the zoning ordinance as it relates to conceptual site plans in the MXT zone, the density must be provided and it cannot be exceeded. So we have set the ceiling at a 1.39 FAR. MXT allows for 1.4. The reality the reality of that is, again, very perspective in nature. So this application is more of what it isn't than what it is. And I welcome and I thank the comments that we've heard today with respect to the concerns, because that will continue to help frame, from our perspective, a potential future redevelopment that hopefully, if this is approved, has the flexibility to utilize the well-established, successfully implemented MXT zone or the CN zone in the future, if that proves to be the best mechanism for redevelopment. This gives us the best of both opportunities, and is solely the reason why we have filed this application. I stand before you, and I mentioned this at the meeting on November 27th, but for the countywide map amendment, I would not be before you today with a conceptual site plan, because we are not advancing a redevelopment of this property at this time. It is the home office for the Curtis investment property. It is 2 single-family detached homes which are occupied by tenants currently. I want to just abundantly make that clear. As with respect to the concerns that we've heard, the common theme really is centered around adequate public facilities, whether that be traffic, whether that be police, fire, whether that be sidewalks and pedestrian connectivity, we refer to as BPIS, bike pedestrian impact statements, and then crime. As you all know, that will be adequately tested and determined at the time of the preliminary plan of subdivision. We are not advancing a preliminary plan of subdivision. We do not have a preliminary plan of subdivision proposed. We do not have one that's forthcoming, but nevertheless, any redevelopment of this property will require a preliminary plan of subdivision if there's a residential component associated with it. At that time, as you all know, the law and the code requires, whether it's under the old or the new, a preliminary plan of subdivision and a certificate of adequacy, for which transportation adequacy, schools, police, fire, water, sewer, bike ped, sidewalks, etc., will be analyzed and tested. To Ms. Johnson's exhibit, if any of that testing, when it's done at that time, based upon an actual development plan that can't be any more dense than this, in all likelihood it has to be less and will be less. If it even if one were to move forward, if there are off-site improvements that are required as it relates to traffic impact and adequacy, those will have to be done. Whether those are decel and acel lanes, merge lanes, a traffic light, etc., all that will be tested at the time of preliminary plan. This property was tested for adequacy, transportation adequacy, among others, at the time of rezoning. But the code does provide that with the piece ZMA rezoning to the MXT zone, a new traffic study is not required at the time of conceptual site plan. It will be required at the time of preliminary plan. You all, in your resolution approving this, implemented a condition that specifically speaks to that and requires a new traffic scoping agreement as well as a new traffic impact study at the time of preliminary plan. It also requires bike ped analysis at the time of the preliminary plan and subdivision. Those findings and those conditions are in the staff report and in the resolution that you adopted after the June 1st hearing, and we had no objection to them. We acknowledge them and we stand behind them as it relates to any future development project for this property. And I just wanted to highlight that in your staff report at pages 13 and 16. I want to thank Ms. Taylor also for providing us with the February 2018 email that references certain types of uses. Again, we have no objection to that email. We stood behind it back in 5 years ago. We stand behind now. We have no future commercial retail uses for this property, and we intend upon any redevelopment of this property to continue to work with the community and try to identify, excuse me, uses that the community would like to see here, understanding that we are bound by the table of uses and what's permitted in either the MXT or the CN zone. And then I think I'll just close with just saying one thought from the comment Ms. Johnson said with respect to transparency. we are being as transparent as we possibly can be on this project or on this application as it relates to this property. A lot of the questions that we got asked from Mr. Wilson and others with respect to, what is the pro forma for this development and what is the investment? We don't have that because there is no pro forma. There is no redevelopment plan. This is a conceptual site plan solely for the utilization of being able to satisfy the transitional provisions to have the flexibility to move forward in the future with the MXT zone. And so I will never be before a community and answer a question with an answer other than I don't know if I truly don't know. And a lot of the questions that we were asked, we just don't know because we don't have the details. There is no architecture. There's no landscape plan. This is a box on a paper showing what it could be, not what it will be. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, it is very prospective. It's being done solely for the reason of transition, going from old to new, MXT to CN. And I submit before you that notwithstanding the concerns that you heard, all of those issues will be addressed either by this applicant going forward in any future plans or addressed through the code and the law that requires such testing and adequacy determinations at future applications. And with that, Mr. Chairman, again, I just want to publicly thank all the citizens. I know I speak for Mr. Proctor and myself. We very much look forward to continuing the dialogue, continuing to work together collaboratively and getting to a place that is beneficial for everybody. So with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for allowing me to just summarize that. And we would respectfully request your support and approval of this conceptual site plan to facilitate the flexibility that any owner that had MXT in the property would otherwise enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Commissioners, we've heard from the applicant on this, heard from staff. We have heard from folks in the community who are in opposition. Let me open it up to you with any questions, concerns. Where are we?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll comment. And I too would like to thank all the citizens for coming out and certainly having the opportunity to listen to their impassioned comments about this. But what I would say is it's indicative of, quite frankly, a lot of times citizens just not really understanding the process. And we know it's difficult. And as Mr. Tedesco said, and us not taking sides, this may not be apartments. These may not be. There's the CSP, there's a preliminary plan, there's a detailed site plan, and different things have to be considered at every step of the way. And largely what I heard from the citizens are things that would never be considered or dealt with or addressed at the conceptual site plan level. I would encourage you to please stay involved. I am certainly not in a position to dispute one way or the other. Those who said that they received something or didn't receive something, was not aware. Our staff are available every day to not only make sure your information is included and is accurate, but I would also encourage you to reach out to our staff just to have a conversation about what the process is, just so you have a clearer understanding of what takes place at what particular time. So that's, I just wanted to offer that because we often have citizens and we encourage citizen involvement and engagement and input. But if you don't do this every day, it's oftentimes quite difficult to follow what's happening. But please know that our staff is available and should be considered a resource in that regard.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other commissioners?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to associate myself again with Ms. Washington's comments. I think one of the key words is the conceptual site plan. It's nothing that is in stone, nothing that we have to look at, no buildings or anything like that being proposed at this time, but a thought. You know, sometimes you have a thought this way and the next day it may be another thought. So I think we all need to take a moment back. I know I do, in looking at this and realizing that this is nothing in stone. So come the future that we will have to make a decision on, but not today. And the key word for me is conceptual site plan.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Geraldo, Commissioner Dorner, anything to add?
I have nothing to add, just to share in the comments of Commissioner Washington and Vice Chair Bailey. I understand, I'm familiar with the neighborhood and I'm familiar with having lived not far from there. And I know the problems that do exist on Old Branch Avenue and Branch Avenue in that whole area. But as my colleagues have said, this is only conceptual site plan, and it's consistent with the zoning that was placed by the council several years ago. So, but you do have friendly ears on the board. Thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, so I also see myself in the comments of my other colleagues and just mentioned to the citizens that I think all of us are pretty big advocates of the citizens getting involved and applicants working with them. We routinely will tell applicants to just go back to the table and postpone their cases if they haven't made efforts to meet with the citizens and kind of work through problems or hear their voices. So it's unfortunate that you didn't feel like you got your voice or had an opportunity to get your voice heard in the earlier case, but I'm hopeful that you can rest assured that we are taking it seriously now, and listening to I just jumped up here, and listening to your comments today, and stay involved in the process. Your people of records now at this point, and the applicant knows who you are. So I would say continue to stay involved however the vote goes with this, but also other cases in your area as well. Make sure you continue to stay involved. It's frustrating sometimes when stuff comes in that you don't want to see, or that you feel like you haven't been fully heard, or that stuff just doesn't go the way that you want it to go. But this is how we get things done a lot of times. And voicing your concerns is what makes our democracy extremely efficient and extremely reflective of what we want. And we live in a country that has the ability for us to voice our concerns, whether we're pro or against things, and that's a very special thing to have. So thank you for coming out today and expressing your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just close by saying I associate myself with most of all my colleagues. I'm in the same place with this. I appreciate the voice of the residents on this. Yes, up the front, I expressed some concerns about the process, and please know this had nothing to do with the merits of the case and your all's voices and the opportunity for your voices to be heard. This is more of a procedural issue related to the authority of the district council and what is required for a remand. That's what that comment was about. So in any case, commissioners, we have heard from folks in the community. We've heard from rebuttal and close by the applicant, and it's up to us. What is your pleasure on this item, on the remand?
Mr. Chairman?
Who's speaking?
This is Tony Wilson, if I may. I had my hand raised. I wanted to make sure that, as a part of the record, that the community understands, as well as the respective body, we are in support of the increase of density with Mr. Tedesco. We are in support of that. We're just not in support of the project itself in this iteration. I just wanted to make sure that the record stood.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Again, we here, and Mr. Wilson, glad you got your chance to concern, but to be clear, the public hearing portion of this is closed. But noted, Mr. Wilson, what you've said. Okay. Commissioners, if there's no further deliberation, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve CSP-21001 along with the associated conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. For folks in the community, I imagine we'll be seeing you again on this as things, if and when things move forward. So thank you for taking the time. And you all have good holidays. Thank you very much. Commissioners, we have one more item before us on our agenda. Item 8, this is a request for a continuance, extension request rather. That's an extension request order 4-08002 Westphalia Center. We have Mr. Shipp representing the applicant. We have Mr. Huang who's going to give a brief staff presentation. Mr. Huang, the floor is yours. Or is it Ms. Gupta?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. It's me today after a long time. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, Ms. Gupta. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to you and members of the board. For the record, I'm Mridula Gupta with the subdivision section. Item number 8 on the agenda is an extension request for preliminary plan of subdivision 4-08002 titled Westphalia Center. This preliminary plan of subdivision was approved by the planning board on June 4th, 2009, and it is valid through December 31st, 2023. By letter dated November 15th, 2023, the applicant requested a 6-year extension of the plan's approval. This is the applicant's second extension request. If this request is approved, the preliminary plan of subdivision will be valid through December 31st, 2029. Section 24-119D of the prior subdivision regulations authorizes the planning board to grant an extension to the normal expiration of a preliminary plan of subdivision when certain criteria are met. These criteria and staff's findings are listed in the staff memorandum. Based on these findings, staff recommends that the planning board grant a 6-year extension to preliminary plan of subdivision 4-08002 pursuant to section 24-119D6 of the prior subdivision regulations. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupta. Commissioners, any questions for staff? If not, Mr. Shipp, anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. William Shipp with law offices in Greenbelt. I'm a little apprehensive being the last item on the long agenda on Pearl Harbor Day, but I just want to thank staff for all the great work they've done on this. We appreciate their guidance, and we're here to answer any questions and certainly request the board's favorable disposition.
Thank you, Mr. Shipp. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? If not, what is your pleasure on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve the 6-year extension for preliminary plan 4-08002 for 6 years until December 31st, 2029. And thank you, Mr. Shipp, for the brevity.
Thank you.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. Discussion? No discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Shipp. Thank you, Ms. Gupta.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hunt, the important question of the day. Any further business before us?
Additional business item before the board today. It's enough.
Commissioners, without objection, we are adjourned. Happy holidays for you all, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. Happy holidays,
Thank
all.
you.
Take care.
Here.